Okay, this is the call to order.
Recording in progress.
The City of Dunnellon City Council meeting, July 11, 2022. It is now 5:33 p.m. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you all remain standing? Is there someone in attendance that would like to give us a short prayer? Tom?
Let us pray. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. Lord, it is an honor and a privilege to serve you in this capacity, to come and pray before these council meetings. Lord, I thank you for all that you are doing in this city, seen and unseen. Father, I pray your blessing over this council and all those in attendance and even those who could not make it today. I pray, Lord, that you continue to bless us with knowledge, wisdom, and discernment in regard to all the decisions that are made within this city. And Father God, in Jesus' name, I claim this city for the kingdom of God and all your glory. And I pray that no weapon forged against it shall ever prosper. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. All right, Ms. Odom, roll call.
Mayor White,
Present.
Vice Mayor Heath, here. Councilwoman Williams,
Here.
Councilwoman Key,
Here.
Councilwoman Burbidge.
President.
Couldn't wait to get here. Troy Slider, Public Works Manager.
Here.
Jan Smith, Finance Officer. Here. Georgina Sid, Community Development Manager.
Here.
Julie Danowski, Records Clerk.
Here.
Chief McQuaid.
Here.
Lieutenant Yachts.
Here.
Andrew Heaton, City Attorney.
I'm here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on the city's website and City Hall bulletin board on Thursday, July 7th, 2022.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Odom. First of all, yes, I'd like to welcome Councilwoman Covich back. It's been a while. Good to have you back.
Can I just say a few words?
Why not?
Okay. This
Just
is
don't make up for
just
what
like
you would have
this-
said 2 months ago.
right. Yeah, I really want to say thank you to everybody who helped me out in the last month and a half. Some of you out there are excellent grocery shoppers. Some of you just happened to know that single moment where I was going to lose it, and I got a cell phone call and turned my day around. And again, it's great to be back. I didn't drive into Dunnellon for 34 days. First time I came back was on Friday over that bridge, and I was like, this place is beautiful. And it's because of the way you guys take part in taking care of the city. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Glad you're home.
All right, let's go over a few housekeeping things so we can have a nice, smooth running meeting. If you would like to speak, you will have several opportunities tonight to speak. You can speak at the very beginning of the meeting on any topic of your choosing that is not on the agenda. If you want to speak to some item that is on the agenda, you have to wait till that agenda item comes up. So your first opportunity to speak will be on non-agenda items. You will be asked to keep your comments at 3 minutes. Please make your comments, you'll say your name and address, your name and address when you come to the podium. And speak into the microphone because this is being recorded. There are some people listening and we are transcribing what you say for historical documentation. We promise that we are very happy that you are here and we will treat you respectfully. We want to hear what you have to say. We ask that it's a door that swings both ways, that you also, when you address council, you respect us, and we'll get along real well. Last thing I want to say is if you have a ringing device, it's a good time to turn off any beepers, phones, or anything like that. And if you want to talk to your neighbor, the acoustics in this room are actually pretty good. We can hear it from here. And it does make our recording difficult when people are speaking. So if you need to speak to your neighbor, we ask you to go outside and take care of your business and come back in when you're ready. So with that said, do we have any council comments regarding the published agenda? The only thing I have to say, it's not on the agenda, it has to do with the consent agenda. I've been notified that on the consent agenda, the May 4th minutes are ready, but the May 9th and the May 23rd minutes are not ready. So when we vote on the consent agenda, those two minutes were not complete in time. Yes.
And if this is the appropriate time, I would also like to take number 6 off the consent agenda and have it on the regular agenda for further discussion.
That wasn't on the consent agenda.
Item number 6
Yes.
on the agenda.
Yes. It says regular agenda here, but actually I thought it was on the consent agenda.
No, it's on the regular agenda.
What is on the consent agenda? That was going to be on the consent agenda, so what would be the item on the consent agenda that would be talking about our taxable value?
Nothing.
Well, then it should have been on the consent agenda.
It should have been.
No. I remember it being on the regular agenda because we don't ever vote.
At the last meeting, I did ask the same question and I was told that rather than have it on the consent agenda, that I would be given the opportunity to remove it.
Oh, I thought that was about the FEMA notification of withdrawal.
The
Yeah.
FEMA notification.
Yeah, that was FEMA notification, wasn't anything with the sales tax.
It is not. It is not the same issue as the proposed taxes. in
No, ma'am.
millage rate.
No, ma'am.
Okay, then I'm sorry.
That's okay. I get confused, so.
Thank you.
Satisfied? Okay, good. Seems simple enough to solve that one. Let's hope the rest of the issues tonight are that easy to solve. Okay, now we're going to public comments on non-agenda items. If anyone has signed up, you will be asked to speak first. If you haven't signed up and you want to speak, you will be allowed to speak. So is there, Ms. Odom, is there anyone signed up to speak to a non-agenda item?
Bill Vibbert,
I had signed up for number 5 and number 6. Would you rather we wait in when it's on the agenda?
Okay, you're going to speak to agenda items?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else, Ms. Odom?
Tony Mans,
Yes, ma'am. I would like to defer to the agenda item that I can speak about.
okay. Susan Jones,
This is an update from Rainbow Springs Art. I'm Susan Jones, 9129 Southwest 190th Avenue Road, Dunnellon, Florida. I would normally have brought this to the workshop last week, but life interrupted. So thank you for letting me speak today. I have put on your desk, I believe, a summary where we are. We are starting a new program where each month, and maybe more frequently if we have people step up who are interested in participating, a roundtable or a lecture or a discussion of any topic. And the last 2 that we did were on using social media to promote an artist's work. And they were very well attended and the dialogue was extremely lively. And so we've decided to go ahead and go forth with this program. And you'll see that in August, we're doing one on how to set up a festival booth for success. Those of you who know Rainbow Springs Art from its beginning, we started as a group trying to encourage local people who had not shown their art to come out and give it public exposure. And we were very much concerned about supporting our community and supporting our local artists. So this one is aimed right at the heart of where we began, which is let's have a festival, let's see if we can figure out how this works and if we can do it well, And we were very pleased with our very first one several years ago, and we are looking forward to the next one. But we do know that there are a lot of artists who are reluctant to come out and participate in a public showing because it's a little scary, frankly. The first time I did it, it's a frightening thing. How do you price your work? How do you display your work? How do you transport your work without breakage? And how do you anchor your tent so that it doesn't fly away with you should the weather change? So that's what this one's all about. The next one is putting ideas onto canvas. The one in October will be a gallery reading. We have not only visual artists, but we have artists who are I'm running down quickly. Okay, who write, and so they will be talking. But the festival date has been set for March 18th. We have 3 facility issues we are very concerned about. Troy and I just had a conversation, but those 3 do involve some budget dollars. They do involve some scheduling, and we are very anxious to see particularly the resurfacing of Cedar Street and the public parking lot there take place. The March and April classes are listed for your convenience, and going down to a few seconds.
This would normally be something you would have done at a workshop.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Take your time.
Well,
You're not held to the 3 minutes. This is a comment. This is a report from.
Well, I appreciate that, Mayor.
Don't feel rushed. Give us your report the way you want it.
All right. Well, I am excited about the classes that are going to be available next month. Summer is always a very slow time for our businesses in our area. We know that, and we are not seeing the foot traffic that we saw during the winter months. We appreciate anyone who decides to come visit and see our art and purchase perhaps a piece for a loved one for a holiday or a birthday celebration or anniversary. But we also know there's a lot of our members of the community who really want to learn about art. And we don't want anyone to be intimidated by picking up a paintbrush or saying they can't draw a straight line, because we don't use a lot of straight lines in most art. We use a lot of curves, and circles and waves and triangles. And so we have classes ongoing. We have an opportunity for children to come in small groups. As few as 3 people can come in and schedule a session to learn about sketching or painting or the use of acrylics with water. I learned something. I took my great niece to a session last week with my sister, and we had the best time basically learning how to use some of the media that I was already familiar with in a different way. So there's lots, even for those of us who think we might know a little bit about art, to explore, and these by appointment sessions are ideal for that, because whatever you're working on, we can help you go to the next step. And I'm excited about the festival. Let me go back to that item for just a moment, since I have a few more seconds. We are hoping to increase the number of exhibitors, and we are hoping to increase the crowd, and we are committed to making it a huge success, knowing that our business sponsors have been behind us and supported us, and that we could not do it without them. Yes, Scott?
Hey, Ms. Frank, question. On your August 12th, 17th, and 20th, what time are those gatherings?
I will send you that information. I believe I have it with me, but if I don't, I will send that to you and make sure that it's available to council.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Certainly. Any other questions?
Is this a printout that you have, is this on your website? For those that are here that might want to look it up?
The detail is on the website, absolutely. And the other thing that's on our website that I forgot to mention, the 2 things actually, if you will indulge. One is that contributions to our scholarship fund can now be made online. We found a delightful young lady who is going off to study art after high school, and she received our scholarship this year. We want to continue doing that, and we're trying to make it easier for people to sign up online for classes and to contribute to the scholarship and to sign up for the festival as well. And then the last item that I was asked to start a discussion on is signage at the corner of Pennsylvania Street and 41. Our board feels very strongly that we need more effective signage at that corner. to tell people that there is an art gallery. Our board is willing to help absorb some of the cost for that. We're looking for guidance on how to collaborate with the city. We've done so much collaboration in the past on our building and our plans and our festivals. How do we collaborate with you to design and erect and fund a sign that would bring people down to that end of Pennsylvania Street to understand that there are some art options available to them?
Well, yes, go ahead.
Georgina, isn't that kind of our plan? I mean, we've got that in the budget, if I'm not mistaken.
We're working on the RFP for the signage, so that's part of it.
Okay, so I think we've kind of already addressed it. Just speak with Georgina.
Is there a timeline? I know RFPs have to go a certain amount of time, but is there a timeline or a target for getting the signage erected?
Well, right now, we're in the process of getting a company to do the signage. So we have advertised what we want, and we're just waiting for the contractors to come forward, and then, of course, we have to make a decision as to what contractor the council decides on, and then we'll take it from there.
So it's a budgeted item at this point?
It is.
Excellent. Well, if it could be a completed process before the winter season, that would be fabulous. I know that might be pushing the bureaucracy a little bit, but obviously the sooner we can get it up, the better.
If it was for me, it had been done already months ago, but.
The process, I understand.
Ms. Jones, if I could say what I would recommend to expedite what you're trying to do is to come in with some concepts and meet with Georgiana and Mandy, kind of get it going, and then we can put it on next month's workshop. The way I'm envisioning what you're looking at is we'll have our city signage, which is a grand scheme, a grand plan for our beautification of the historic section, but there's nothing preventing us from having some sort of colorful sign like our entrances to the city that are separate from that. It could be something distinct about your art building. So I would say if we just kind of hitch it to the wagon of the entire signage for the whole city, we know how that goes. Those things take time.
Excellent, excellent.
Right. So come in and talk with staff and try to get some ideas, and then we can put it on next month's workshop, and maybe we can run with it.
We will do that, and we will also look into, with Georgina's guidance, maybe some temporary signage that could be interim until the official RFPs are done and everything in place. But thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks for your report. Anyone who's interested in the Rainbow Springs Art in Dunnellon, look it up on the website. If you've never visited the shop in the historic section, I would strongly advise you to do that when you're over there at Rumble's house or Sweetie's Cafe. It's in that area. It's a great place to just go and browse for a while and see the work of the local artists. That's where they sell their wares, and that's what finances the art building. It's a very special place. I enjoy going in there. All right, do we have anyone else signed up? So,
No, sir.
okay, is there anyone else who didn't sign up that would like to speak to something that is not on the agenda? Yes, Art. Name and address.
Yeah, Art Jones, 12163 Palmetto Way here in Dunnellon. Yeah, I wanted to just speak to a little bit more about what Susan was talking about. I went into the art co-op the other day and was speaking to them about getting some of their artists there to create some otters for t-shirts to help with the whole project. And we got talking about things. I talked to Bridget, and she was saying that they also have some connections with some studios and artists that make sculptures, like an otter sculpture. What we've done in Crystal River with the manatees, we've created these beautiful fiberglass manatee sculptures, and we've had different artists paint them. And so when people come into town, they can get a map and go see the painted manatees. Kind of like what they've done up in Ocala with the horses. What a great idea for Dunnellon to do it with otters. I really think we ought to do this, you know? Have a lot of fun with it, and it's just a way to bring people in and say, yeah. And with the t-shirts, I'm saying I want to see a bunch of otters with a little rake. We ought to clean this river. We ought to save the river and just have a lot of fun with it. So I reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and I bounced that idea off of them, and Julie thought it was fantastic. So I want to get that in motion. And actually I was at Susan Jones's house, I think it was last year at the Springs Conference, and I actually won one of her otters in the contest. It's a little otter that she made by hand. I think it's out of clay, right? Yeah, beautiful. And I think otters is really a great thing that we could use to really promote Dunnellon and promote the river. I like the idea at the workshop that came up with, let's make Dunnellon the gateway to the Rainbow River. I mean, really, let's run with this river. Let's do everything we can to help it and help our community, help the otters, help the people, help everybody together. So I think that's a great idea.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
It's a little bit easier maybe to promote otters rather than alligators, right?
Take a bite out of you.
I would have to.
Otters bite too.
Yes, they do.
All right, is there anyone else in the, any attendee who would like to speak before we move on? Anyone? Tim, did you raise your hand? No. Ms. Odom, anyone on Zoom? No? Okay. We're moving off the public comment of non-agenda items. We're moving to the consent agenda. Consent agenda on, if you look at our agenda, it's item number 1 and number 2 on the agenda. Is there any public comment on those two things? Keep in mind that there has been a change to this. The May 9th and the May 23rd minutes are not prepared. So what is on this consent agenda is just the minutes for May 4th. So is there any public comment on item number 1 or number 2? Okay.
Item number 2,
Yes.
is that not what, that is what I could ask to be removed, I thought? If it's related to our new taxes,
It's not.
it is not, FEMA is not.
It's not. This is.
I can't get that out of my head. Okay.
This is withdrawal from a grant through FEMA for COVID expenses where we were reimbursed through another funding source.
Thank you.
Okay. And we want to make sure you have that clear.
I think I got about that. Now I got it.
I know what it's like when a boat's coming and you're still trying to, you're not there. So yeah, I can appreciate that. Happens to me every night. Not really. All right, so is there any, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented, except for the minutes from May 9th City Council meeting and May 23rd Special City Council meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, now we go to the regular agenda. If you have your sheet in front of you, that would be number 3, presentation of the Marion Transit Services, Clayton Murch, Director of Transportation. Sir, welcome to Dunnellon. We're so pleased for you to be here.
Glad to be here. Clayton Murch, 1101 Southwest 20th Court, Ocala, Florida, 34471. All right. Going to talk real quickly about some of the services we provide in the Dunnellon area, namely the Blue Line. I'll give you a little bit of background on Marion Transit, actually, as you'll see throughout the presentation. Next slide. Marion Transit, as you can see, is at part of Marion Senior Services. Our mission is to provide public transportation that offers riders a high-quality, safe, reliable, and efficient paratransit experience. Next slide. Who is Marion Transit? Marion Transit has been serving Marion County, Florida since 1976. We're a not-for-profit paratransit service. We provide public transportation to all persons in our service area of Marion County, Florida. It is designated, however, to maximize usage by transportation disadvantaged persons in general. 1982, we were designated as the Marion County Community Transportation Coordinator, otherwise known as the CTC, by the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged. We've been the CTC for Marion County since the program inception. In June of 2020, we were renewed for 5 years as the CTC. As the CTC, we are able to provide transportation disadvantaged service, and I'll go into that a little bit later, what that specifically means. Again, our service area is all of Marion County, 1,663 square miles. That's larger than the state of Rhode Island, okay? Our average number of one-way trips per day is 350 to 450. Those are pre-COVID numbers, and on any given day, we have 25 to 35 buses on the road. Next slide. Being a non-for-profit, we're funded by some different grant programs, okay? 5311, one of our main funding sources. That requires a 50% local match. The local match comes from Marion County. Grants awarded by FDOT, and the funds are utilized for primarily operating expenses for us. 5310 requires a 10% local match from Marion County. That's more the capital side of things. That's to buy buses and things like that, equipment, capital expenditures. The grant is also awarded by FDOT. We do get a TD grant. That comes from the state. The TDLCB approves any equipment purchases we have, but we also use that for expenses as well. Other grants that we can apply for on an as-needed basis, the Shirley Conroy, 5339, those are additional capital grants that we have the potential to apply for. Local match funds required come primarily via budget requests made to Marion County, but they also come from fair revenues and some donations. Next slide. This is a quick breakdown of our trips that we run by funding source. Okay, you'll see 42% transportation disadvantage, 22% ADA, 5311 rural, and then 1% is other. Next slide. So we'll talk quickly about the ADA. It's 22% of our trips. Next slide. Our riders, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. City of Ocala is the administrative agency for Suntran and has contracted with RATP Development to perform day-to-day operations and management of a fixed route system. Fixed route systems are required to provide ADA, complimentary paratransit service to riders. They have to live within 3/4 of a mile of the bus route. And they have contracted with us, Marion Transit, to provide that service for them. We actually bill them separately for that. Next slide. On to the transportation disadvantage piece. Our riders, the thing with transportation disadvantage, we have to qualify them, okay? And currently, they have to have no other funding available, no other means of transportation. They cannot utilize public transit. They can have a physical or a mental disability. They have to be 60 or over or under 16, and they have to be at 150% below the poverty level, okay? No self-declarations of that. There has to be legitimate proof of that. Okay, next slide. Rural, which is probably our biggest funding source. It's also the one we run the most miles. Dunnellon, the area here is part of that 5311 group. Next slide. Marion Transit is committed to providing public transportation services in our rural areas. Okay. Again, it's designed for disadvantaged people, which could be disability, age, or income level, but it is public transit, right, in the 5311 market. We just do it on much smaller buses than you may see in the city. Since we're not a fixed route system, rural riders need to call for an appointment following our reservation guidelines. The exception, the blue line and the gold line. The blue line operates here in Dunnellon, and that is just like a normal bus system where you step on, step off. You don't have to call ahead to make any reservations. Next slide. The 1%, what that is for us, is an agreement with Marion County Public Schools. We provide homeless children rides to school until they can be scheduled on a normal bus route. Okay, so we take care of that for them. All right? We have in the past done Medicaid and stuff like that. We don't currently do that. That's farmed out to other services. We don't currently take care of that. Next. So to break that down, this is a rough idea of what the funding looks like versus the area. So when I refer to ADA, I'm talking about Ocala proper, more or less. TD is the next band out, a little bit further distance, but still metro. And then 5311 is everywhere else within Marion County. Okay, next slide. Click it. So, talk about the blue line. The blue line was developed in 2018 in response to increased ridership in the Dunnellon area. Several riders posed logical question, right? Why do we have to go into Ocala for service when we have many of them right here in Dunnellon? And in our continuous effort to provide that, we created the blue line, which was, like I said, a step-on, step-off kind of arrangement as opposed to calling 72 hours in advance for an appointment. Next. This is what it looks like. I know it's a bit of an eye chart. You see the blue line represents normal and customary stops on the route. Okay, next. This is actually the schedule for the blue line, and what you'll notice if you click, you'll see the lighter shaded ones are normal stops every day, and there are times associated with them. You'll also see the darker shaded ones that have no set time. Those are deviations, okay? They have to call and let the bus driver know that they want to go to those places. And he'll do his best to work them in his schedule, okay? So every day we run, the lighter ones are the stops that have the times associated with, but we can go to all of the other stops as well, okay? But that's on an on-demand kind of basis. Next. Obviously, there are rules on our bus, much like there are on any public transportation. I won't go through them, but obviously, it's fairly intuitive if you look through it. No littering, no weapons, no bare feet, etc., etc. No fighting, no guns, weapons, no illegal drugs, all of that. Okay? We do shopping as well. We limit to 3 bags, and we also require seatbelt use. Some of the fare information, I've actually brought along some brochures for the blue line. It's all in here. If anybody would like to have them, I could leave them here, just as information. But it includes the schedule, both the times and the fee schedule. Okay? Next. So blue line continues to increase ridership. As you can see, I've just taken it back since January of 21. And we've increased. We're doing roughly 153 people in a month now. It's been higher than that in the past, like pre-COVID, but I didn't include those numbers. But we're getting back up to that. We're getting back up to where we were pre-COVID. So it continues. It's a nice upward trend, and we look to add Fridays in the near future. It's currently Monday through Thursday. Next. And like I said, we'll expand it. It's currently Monday through Thursday, and it's in direct response to rider suggestions that we have suggestion boxes on all our buses, and they've actually asked for Friday to be included. We'll continue to review feedback and make changes where we can to improve the service and make it a better fit for everyone involved. If there's more stops they want to add, we can look at adding some permanently, but we're pretty open to doing whatever the riders require. Okay? Next. That's all I have. Short and sweet. Questions?
I have several, but I'll let
Okay.
council go first. Anyone?
Well, you've given me information that I'm not aware of, and I look forward to pamphlets that you do have.
Sure.
So that I can study that. I appreciate
Certainly,
it.
certainly.
And I thank you for coming.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you very much. It was very informative, and I see Marion Transit around Dunnellon all the time, and I think it's a very good program. But I was just wondering about the homeless children. Is there a particular place that you pick them up at? Is there like
Wherever they need us to. Honestly, it can be anywhere.
Okay.
You know, it's one of those sad but true. But wherever we're needed, we'll go because, you know, it's in the county.
Okay.
And they can potentially be anywhere.
Okay.
You never know where the new homeless family is going to pop up, right? So,
Yeah. Okay.
Ms. Cummings?
I'd like to thank you for coming here this evening, and I was wondering if perhaps we could get a little article in the Riverland News about your services, make more
Okay.
people aware.
Sure.
So,
Make sure you leave it there for something.
I will.
yeah, leave me a brochure so I can get with you. And
Certainly. Some more pointed questions may come up, and I can definitely answer them.
Thank you.
I can leave business cards too if it's of interest.
Vice Mayor?
Hey, thank you again as well. I know I was on the committee, on TPO when the Blue Line came on, and it was definitely a positive, because I know we can't get the big buses over here yet, but I'll tell you, I've met with, just in the Jiffy stores or wherever around town, and the bus drivers are nothing but so hospitable. They are just wonderful, and they treat their riders like their family. So thank you. And I will have to say, for any of you that have never dealt with SunTran or Marion Transit, they are all about rider satisfaction. Gosh, can I get the word out? They actually listen to what the riders need, what they want, and y'all have always done an amazing job. So I give y'all big kudos for that. So just real quick though, and just because of our area, like if I was a grandmother and I was able to ride the transit, and I have my 7-year-old grandson with me today, could he ride with me if we need to go to Walmart, or like I think I saw KP Hole on there and those types of things? Is that an allowed service?
It is on a case-by-case basis. Okay, it is something that, again, you saw anyone under 16. Obviously, a certain age, they have to have a guardian of some sort with them.
Well,
so.
yeah. No, that's what I was just wondering.
And obviously, qualifications and everything else would have to be met.
If they were here for the summer for a day or whatever. So I was just wondering about that.
Sure.
And I know you said they have stop areas, so does this also go to their homes and picks them up? Or just it does go to their
Yeah,
homes?
we
And then
go
they'll
to,
take them to Walmart?
Correct.
Okay, that's what, I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure I was, so.
and we can do either. I mean, we can pick them up at Walmart and take them to the next stop or
Right.
2 stops later, but yeah,
Okay, that's what I thought.
it is a door-to-door.
I noticed the buses at a neighbor's house, yeah.
And that's one of the downsides, right? It's a good and bad. Smaller bus, but we do door-to-door as opposed to a bigger bus where we
They
probably
have to
couldn't get
walk.
it down some of the streets, right? So,
Thank you for your hard work. It's really appreciated for a rural area. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Before I get into some of my comments, I want to recognize and thank Rob Baums, the director of TPO, for coming and visiting us. Hello, Rob. Stand up and say hi to everybody. All right, Rob. Yeah, all right. Thank you for coming. Ms. Odom, do we have anything on our city website that notifies anyone that these services are available?
I'll have to double check. I'm not absolutely.
I would think that would be something that would be a nice addition to our website
Yeah,
for people to see that.
It's likely there is, but I have to verify.
Okay.
And there is a Marion Transit, not to interrupt you, but there is a mariontransit.org website with additional information if that is something you wanted to add or even link.
Yeah. Where I'm going with this is what Councilwoman Covich was saying. This service is wonderful, and it's only as good as the people that are able to know about it and use it, right? It's like a lot of governmental things. You put out good ideas, and it's hard to get people to hear about it, know about it, whatever. So what we can do to help, having our brochures right here in the office, we should have your brochures all the time.
Yeah, and we can honestly send you an electronic copy if you need to print more or anything like that. We can take care of that.
We can put it on the website.
Then we can, if it's not already there, we can link everything on our website to your website.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to understand how this works.
Okay.
So the blue line runs on a regular schedule, Monday through Thursday on the schedule you said.
Correct.
Where are there places in the city that are marked that I'm not aware of that people know to, they go from wherever their home is and they wait there for the bus?
Correct.
Or they can call and go pick them up at
Yep.
their house.
Or if they're unable to walk or get there, they can actually have you come and get them?
Yeah, wheelchair, all of it.
So what would you say the percentage of people that ask you to come to their home and pick them up?
We pick everyone up at their home.
It seems like it would be pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, what's the downside? Right?
Yeah, who's going to be standing there in the middle of July in the afternoon heat?
Yeah, this is not like you're thinking a bus stop or anything like that. I mean, there are times that you may wait. You know, the route runs Winn-Dixie, Walmart, Heart of Florida, Walmart, Winn-Dixie, right? And then there's a multitude of stops in between where the Publix and the post office and Rainbow Springs and all of that are listed here. And it might be probably as good a time to
Yeah.
pass these down.
Thank you.
See, I realized it was a bit of an eye chart showing it up on a slide. That's a little bit easier to read.
So some interesting questions. A lot of the people that would use this service are elderly.
Correct.
And like you said, a high percentage of them are disabled.
Yep.
So someone uses your bus service and you drop them off somewhere. And then they miss the bus to come back. What happens?
This bus keeps running a loop, runs multiple times throughout the day.
What happens if they have issues like dementia or something like that and they miss the last bus and they don't have a way to get home?
Our drivers are pretty aware of that and pretty conscientious about something like that. But also if they have dementia, our drivers are pretty aware of that. They are on first name basis, bases, I guess.
Okay, I understand.
With a lot of the clients.
There's a lot of people with dementia. It doesn't have to be so advanced that it's obvious. People have various phases of it where they become forgetful. They can't remember.
Yeah, there's quite a few that have become pretty close friends, and they do a lot of things together on the bus where they'll ride together and shop together and
Right.
and the like. So
It's a community.
yes.
What can Dunnellon do? Because I really think we have a elderly population in Dunnellon, and I think there's a lot of people that would be eligible because of the economics of it.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to better promote and let the people of Dunnellon know that the service is available?
I guess that maybe is something I should be asking you.
Yeah, because I've lived here 5 years.
Sure.
And other than seeing your buses, I had no idea what they were. And it wasn't until I got involved with TPO that I connected the dots. And when I said, whoa, so that's what those buses are for. So if you have someone who's on council who doesn't really understand what it is, you have to expect there's certainly a lot of people in the city that doesn't know what it is too.
Yeah, and that sounds like a good opportunity for us to get out there and to self-promote, I guess. You know, we've relied a lot on word of mouth up to this point, and even some referrals, but it is something that there are many more people out there than 153 in a month that could utilize this service and benefit greatly from it.
One thing I might recommend to you is we do have 3 or 4 major events in the city. We have our Boomtown Days, we have our Art Festival, we have our Two Rivers Music Festival. A lot of these have booths involved, and it would be a good idea possibly to set up a booth. And I think at our Boomtown Days, we had 10,000 people come to our last Boomtown Days.
Okay.
So that'd be a good idea to, you
Have
know,
a presence.
yeah, have a presence and let people know about it. I think that would be very successful. Well, I'm really excited about this. I just hope we can utilize the best we can the services that you're offering. And I know we requested for you to come here, and you've come, and we know it's nearly an hour drive from wherever you live, so we appreciate that very much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
I think what I'm going to do for me, I'm going to make copies of this and hand it out in my church.
Sir?
And the Chamber of Commerce, I'm sure, and let our businesses know so that their customers can know. But I know y'all came here back in 2018 when we started, because I remember saying nice things about the drivers back then. So.
Well, it's good to know they haven't changed, right?
Yeah, they have not, they have definitely not, so.
Well, that's a
thank
great
you for coming back.
suggestion too. Our Chamber of Commerce has just recently greatly upgraded their website.
Sure.
With some assistance from the city. So this would also be possibly something that they can incorporate in their website. So yeah, I think if we work together trying to get the word out, we'd like to, you come back and see us in a year or two and say, wow, the ridership has exploded. What are you guys doing? You're overwhelmed.
It'll be the blue and the light blue and the dark blue.
There you go. Six rainbow colors.
It'd be nice if I qualified, I can save gas.
On a councilwoman's budget, trust me, you're 150% under.
And we are currently doing the blue line at no cost to the riders as well. And, you know, I think our normal fare is $2 and it's published, but the blue line and the gold line, which serves Marion Oaks, we are currently doing free of charge.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, council?
Safe travels home, if you travel bus.
Thank you so much.
All right, my pleasure.
Tell our friends at the county hello.
I will.
All right, excellent. All right, if you're following us on the agenda, we are now on agenda item number 4. Presentation of the engineer report on agreement 2021-15, EEO TAC roadway condition assessment. And this is Troy Slattery, our public works manager, to take it from here. Troy?
You want to get up here?
Yeah, give me just a second, Council. I'm going to switch seats here. Thank you. All right. This is going to be a challenge. Mandy never lets me use this computer, so let's hope.
You break it,
we don't have to call
you break it,
it.
it comes out of your budget.
All right. Good evening, Council, and thank you for the time to make this presentation to you. We know last year we were awarded a grant to do an evaluation of the overall conditions of all of our paved roads throughout the city. You'll see in front of you the computer program that was generated from that engineering study. This is the dashboard. So starting on the left side of the screen, you'll see where it says 49.7. On a scale of 1 to 100, the 49.7 represents the overall combined condition of our infrastructure roadway here in the city, only including the paved roads. Mind you that none of this is pertaining to the dirt roads, okay? If you look to the right side there, you'll see, there we go. You'll see that each road is color-coded to match the description here on the lower left of that square. So for example, let's see if I get it, there we go. the Granada is in poor condition based on its color coding, right? But I don't know if you can see it on that screen, but in that box that pops up when I grab a roadway there, it gives me a PCI number, PCI of 8. That's on a scale of 1 to 100. So if it's a single digit, you can imagine it's pretty poor, if not failed condition. And I think that's what that color is actually, failed condition. Okay, so you can see here that we have a complete overview of what our status is. Then we have the individual roadways. If we scroll down a little bit, this chart right here will give you a better perspective that the majority of our roads are in serious or very poor condition compared to the roadways that are in good or satisfactory. Okay? Now, with that, we can then come over here. So on this, I can actually pick a section of roadway or come down here to the bottom of the screen. I lost my, there it is. All right, so if we scroll down, I can look at each segment of roadway that was individually inspected or recorded. And you'll also notice that in many cases, there may be 2 lines or 3 lines or even 4 lines describing one road. And that's because they were broke up into sections. So I'll use Camp Drive as an example. Camp Drive may have 3 or 4 different segments that have different scoring on it. So in other words, all of Camp Drive is not going to be right there. So we're on Camp Drive there, but all of Camp Drive is not all in the same condition. So some section has been redone 10 years ago, some sections haven't been done 30 years. So the way the report was done is that I can break out each individual segment of each road to determine if we have to do a full roadway reconstruct. Work history. This will allow us to track what year work was last performed. This was a very difficult challenge for our engineers, whereas we do not have records that go back adequately enough to determine, okay, Pennsylvania, or not Penn Avenue, but the Granada was done in 1977 and so forth. So those colors will change as we progress over the next few years in doing changes. But you can see where 2022, 2016, those roads have been identified. For example, Walnut Street, segment of Park Avenue, okay? And already included in this report was Cedar Street and Ohio Street. Seems how the contract is in progress at this time. They went ahead and put it in as work completed in 2022. This is probably one of the better portions of the program for me. This helps me with my tracking of projects and budgetary. Over here real quick. This is where it gets tricky. Let's see here. So here I can select how much is the city capable or willing to put in annually in a budget, a continuous program. So we can either choose $250,000 a year, $400,000. We can put whatever number we want in there that over the next 5-10 years we say this is how much we want to contribute to our road resurfacing program. All right, so if we just leave it at the 250 mark and confirm, what that does is it then tells me where our road condition is anticipated to be. So right here in 2023, only contributing $250,000 to the budget for minor repairs or maintenance. By 2023, our condition report will actually drop to 47.5, but slowly increase to 2027, back to where it is. So it $250,000 a year for the next 5 years is going to do what? Basically keep our roads at the condition they are in right now. Okay? And that's only one scenario base. Mind you, this is not for only resurfacing or major work. This report will allow me to look at roads and say, does it have to be fully resurfaced, or is there something we can do to restore it or extend its life to buy us time and yet increase the integrity of that roadway at the same time? So this is not always full repaving. Let's do, on this tab here, we have scenario comparisons. Again, each segment of the roadways are broke out. I can select them and keep going. Now, let's see if I got the right tab here. So in this one here, I can do a comparison. When we're talking about our annual budgets, and Mr. Mayor, you're always good at this, and you say, well, what if I gave you $250,000? Or what if I gave you $100,000 a year for your roads? What can that do for you? For the last 3 years, 4 years, I've been taking a serious guess at what it could do for us. We've been pretty close, pretty spot on with the outcome. But this here will actually give us, based on today's current market value, if I only put in, well, if I put in $250,000 for major only, if I did $500,000 a year for major repairs only, if I did $750,000 a year, and I compare that to two overall conditions, no funding and unconstricted budget, right? Confirm. There's our chart. So if you want to know what the benefit of putting money into our road resurfacing program is, this is the chart that helps you visualize what's good, bad, or keeps us at an average. So if I put no funding in here, within 5 years, our overall condition report will drop by 10%. So if I leave the roads the way they are right now over the next 5 years, we've got problems, right? If I go up to the next one, that is $250,000 a year, you can see it probably stays at a level balance. We're at 49%, it'll be about 47% in 5 years. And so on as we go up. So at $500,000 a year, we can expect that in 5 years, our condition report should start going in a positive direction. And at $750,000 a year, within 5 years, we should be having a 65% rating citywide. Okay? And of course, unrestricted. What that does is immediately fixes everything within 1 year, and then we do nothing for the next 5 years. And you can see that by the end of the first year, 2023 to 2024, even though we do 100% of repairs, we're only going to get a 90.95 because you're never going to have 100%. But then, at the end of the 5 years, you lose 10% of your value. Okay? I know those numbers are kind of hard to read. Let's see here. And again, there's your little bar charts there, if that helps better with your visuals and stuff. All right. But also understand this program is here to help us determine, do we have to do a full reconstruct of every road, or can we get away with doing alternative treatments or maintenance procedures to prevent some of those middle grade roads? Go back to our dashboard here. And we'll say some of these roads that are yellow, they're in fair condition. Do we really have to put a whole brand new road in its place? Or if I do $100,000 worth of work to it this year, can I extend its life for 10 years? And that's the true benefit of this. If I only get a budget of $250,000 a year, this program, coupled with the engineers' on-site reviews of each project, will help us stretch that money a little bit further. But it's also not intended for us to ignore that the really bad roads, okay, as we go to the other side of the city over here, let's see, Rolling Hills Road is very serious condition. The Granada, serious condition. But you can see that in Hot Springs, there's really only one road with major issues on it, and that's Shawnee, did I read that right? Shawnee Drive?
Yes.
With a PCI of 12, right? But if we go over here to the next one, that's got a PCI, can you read that number, Valerie? I can't, 62?
62.
So you can see that the entire neighborhood, if we were to focus 250,000, 300,000, say to that entire neighborhood, we could probably bring that average up to fair or satisfactory if we catch it early enough, right? So ladies and gentlemen, council, this is what we were able to achieve this year with that budget. I've been talking about it for almost 3 years now, and trying to come up with a master plan and how we can really focus on restoring our roads or maintaining our roads over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year process. This is the final report. We have the capability now to create this master plan and to follow, by its guidance, a way to better use our money. Now I'm going to bring you to the last one here where it says project planner. And I'm going to, this is another challenge here, let me see, select existing. Now, this is only an example. This is not a formal project. This is only an example. But over a 5-year period, say we want to, use $750,000, we had put together a rough scenario of what we could do for the next 5 years at $750,000 a year. And you could see that's major repairs. That's full resurfacing or full reclamation of a roadway. That's a lot of road. But that's $750,000 a year, right? So we got to be realistic. And when we start realizing where's our funding coming from, what's our average funding going to be, then we can start reeling in and making a final plan as to what we can and cannot accomplish. So if we know we want, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to be shy, I want $750,000 a year for my road program. Because without it, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit level. I'm going to just be maintaining and riding it out until my retirement. That's not my plan. My plan is to restore this city or get into the 80s and 90s, right? So at $750,000 a year, based on today's market, and we're going to look at what's tomorrow's market going to be, what's 10 years from now market going to be, right? But let's not ignore the fact that this is only talking about our paved roads. We have 5 miles of unpaved roads that those folks have been waiting 30 years, or those areas have been waiting 30 years plus to have pavement done, right? So I hope this helps you guys understand what we have at our disposal, how I will be putting our budgets together starting this year and years to come, utilizing this program, but at the same time coming up with an idea where we can maintain what we have, start paving what we don't have yet or haven't ever done, and within 5 years, getting to a point where we're maintaining our roads and increasing our numbers. Okay? So my challenge to you is, find me the money. And now you understand, it's a real challenge, but we will work on it together as a team. Is there any questions about the program?
Ms. Kenny?
Don't start with me this time, no.
Okay. Ms. Cubbage?
I'll have questions probably after I think about this, and I'll come visit you.
And I would encourage the council to do just that, because there's so much detail behind this program that as I put together a project or a tentative proposal for the council, please come see me and we'll go through the program in detail when we can better understand it together. Okay? And one last thing I want to say is on the dashboard here, you'll see it says 49.7. Remember, that already includes 2 pending projects that we're working on right now. Plus, don't forget what we've done for the last 3 years with paving Shore Tower, repaving a portion of Bostic, Walnut, and Park Avenue. So had none of that work been done, our number would probably be down around the 39%, about 10% less than what we are. So we increased our number roughly by 10% in 3 years. That's hard work, teamwork, and that's the direction we want to stay in. Okay?
Ms. Williams?
If I have any questions, I'm like Ms. Coolidge. I might not come see you, I'll call you.
Ms.
Yes,
Kennedy,
ma'am.
do you have any?
No, I think this is very impressive, and you obviously know how to work with the engineers. And the viability of what can be done in terms of money is something that we all stretch our minds over, and I will definitely visit you, because you can explain it in a way that I can understand.
Very good. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, boy, this is a great tool that you've been able to get hold of from the engineers. And, I wish we'd had this for the last 10 years. Which this program had been available to us then. You've done it, like you said, you've taken it probably from the 30s. And the councils have done, given you that opportunity. So I see that we're going to be able to budget well with this. And just go forward and definitely plan our budget sessions and give poor Jan computations, figuring out where to get all the money from. But I think it's going to be a great way to, especially when you redo the projects like we've done in the past, and you give us cute drawings on the thing, but this will actually be able to almost touch and feel it as we go. So I think it's a great, and I'm glad you're understanding how to work it.
The statement you just said about seeing the graph, seeing the color, seeing the roadways, all the data that we have collected as a result of this, now when we put in for grants for road paving, we have solid data provided by engineers that can be updated annually, quarterly, semi-annually, whenever we need it updated. This data is a living, breathing program that will fluctuate. So when I want $1 million for roads in the historic district, I can prove to the grant writers what the true condition is.
And that was one quick question left that I was going to ask you is, is there a cost for us to maintain the accuracy of this? Because I know it's a 5-year plan that you have up right now. How do we keep it fresh for 4 years from now?
This is actually a city, we own it, all right, but it's maintained by our engineers.
Right.
So each time we do a project, this will be updated as part of that project.
At a cost?
I don't believe so. And if it is, it's extremely minimal. But I think the only time there's going to be a true cost, because they can go in and just say, okay, we paved this road now, right? But say when we add Dunnellon Heights and we start paving roads, all right, and I say that confidently enough that we will start in the near future, then as we add those into the system, there'll be a slight cost to add that because it's not part of the program now, right? Okay.
Thank you, sir. I understand what
Okay,
you're
Troy, a couple questions. I find it troubling that $250,000 a year is basically the dog paddle. Dog paddle meaning that's the amount of money we need just to maintain status quo. And we already know that nearly half of our roads need work right now, correct?
Yes.
Right? So coming up with funding consistently on a yearly basis above $250,000 a year will be a challenge. Will be a big challenge for us. Plus, I know I'm getting an idea what $250,000 does for road repair based on what our estimates are on our Blue Cove project. So I would be amazed if $250,000 a year could keep us status quo. To me, I think we'd still be losing time. So the big challenge for the city with our tax base, which right now our projected budget for 2023 is $4,700,000. It's really a major challenge for the city with the condition that the roads are in to come up with the money that we need. It's a real tough one. And unless we get money from the state, grants or other monies that supplement what we have, this is a uphill climb for sure, and it's a real Rubik's Cube. Rob, I don't want to surprise you. Can you just kind of come up with, I just want to see what the county does with these sort of things, if you would. Can I just ask you a couple questions? They'll be easy questions. You know you should have left about 15 minutes. So you go through the same process when you're trying to determine where your triage is for the roads, correct? And kind of give us an overview of how the county approaches this with the amount of money you have.
Mr. Mayor, we're Rob Balmas from Calamari County TPO. We're at 2710 East Silver Springs Boulevard. Well, the TPO is separate from the county, so that's a question that could be posed to the Office of County Engineer or the team that they have that does very similar work that Troy does for county roads. Yeah, the TPO doesn't get involved in the assessment of roadway conditions. So I can tell you though, having a prior background in asset management in Michigan, where I come from, what Troy is doing for the city is right on par with the top-notch quality work that a lot of communities across the country do. I mean, that's cutting-edge work to be able to have a tool like this. So that's kudos to the city. And it's a challenge to maintain pavement condition in good and fair. I mean, in Michigan, I was a part of a legislative effort where they were trying to raise $1 billion a year of new funding just to maintain roads and bridges at the current condition they were, which was not very good. So it's a constant uphill battle. Just throw that out there so you're not alone.
So now being the liaison for TPO and seeing the numbers that are thrown around there, I mean, you have to be scratching your head that the city of Dunnellon is trying to maintain its roads on $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that compared to the numbers you throw around at your level, this is peanuts trying to feed an elephant, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary. I mean, it's the foundation of your community of having good roads. You may want to reach out to Alan Jones with MSTU. He's the director to kind of learn about their PCI process and how they put together their program as well. I think maybe you've done that already, but that's a good counterpart to gentleman to talk with.
I've actually been in contact with Mr. Jones and his team as well. I have not reviewed this with them yet. I just got this myself a little over a week ago. But yes, that is on my schedule to move forward with.
Well, thank you, Rob. So I got some advice for you. Next time, leave 15 minutes early. Thank you, I appreciate it. Really do.
But just TPO, they deal with the state and county, state roads more than the county roads. I used to always get it mixed up, so I'd always go, Rob, can't you fix this road? And he's like, Valerie, that's not ours, that's the county. I'm like, oh, I forget. So I always get those confused too.
Okay. Council, if we're done with it, can we turn the lights back on?
I have one last thing I want to make clear with the council before I end the presentation. The numbers we talked about and the condition of these roadways do not include any stormwater components or engineering factors. Okay? So by saying that $250,000 a year can help maintain our roads at a certain level, or $500,000 a year, understand we have a much deeper, much more serious issue with our drainage, our drain ditches, culvert pipes, underground utilities, and so forth. So just keep that in mind, that if we come to you with a project and say, we're estimating that the asphalt or repaving portion of this, based on this program, is at $750,000, it could be $1 million project. But all of that will be defined and detailed out before I ever come to you with a project.
Yeah.
So
I think that's an excellent point to remind us, like on the Blue Cove project, which we funded for $150,000. We found out before we put a shovel in the ground, $34,000 was needed for engineering, correct?
That is correct.
So
And the bids came in 10% higher than anticipated.
this is a, this is a tough one.
Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're going to number 5. And Rob, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Yeah. Yes, Joe? Well, wait a second. Let's, at number 5, one rake at a time, Rainbow River Restoration Project. We start off with public comment. Has anyone signed up for this?
Yes, Bill Vibert?
Bill Bibber, 9552 Southwest 192nd Court Road, Dunnellon. At the risk of being a skunk at the picnic, I do want to make a couple of comments, Art. We've talked about this a little bit. First of all, I have high regard for what Art is doing on the river. I think he has like our RRC members do, he has a strong interest in improving the river, and I think the program where he's doing manual removal of hydrilla under a FWC permit, there's no argument with that. I think everyone supports that. I think it's a good volunteer project. However, when we get into dredging, there are some issues, and I will just bring up a couple of those quickly. One is the lower river is completely different than the upper river. The upper river has pretty much a limestone substrate, and most of it is covered with sand, white sand. And we've talked about dredging down to the sand and then planting Sagittaria and Vallisneria on top of that. In the lower river, it's a little bit different. If you look at the soil borings in the lower river, which I have, there's very deep layers of very fine clay. It's almost like muck. And whether that can be dredged successfully, because there is no sand there, so you're going to be dredging through muck to a certain depth. Whether you can plant Sagittaria and Vallisneria in that, again, I'm not sure anybody can say for sure. Maybe Art can. The other issue I would be a little concerned about, I have 2 more things I want to bring up. One is there is an issue with benthic life. When we talk about benthic life in the river, Jan knows about this. These are organisms that live in the bottom, under the bottom of the river that you cannot see. However, they are one of the strongest basis of the food chain and the ecosystem on the river. For example, that's where the clams are. And who eats clams? Otters eat clams. So you can go down the river and watch the otters eating clams. That's where the crayfish are. Who eats crayfish? Just about everybody eats crayfish. That's where the snails are. If you look at the loggerhead musk turtle, which is the #1 turtle in the river, they pretty much feed 100% on snails. And the snails are in the bottom too. They're also in the plants. So there are some significant resource questions that would have to be answered before we went ahead with this, I think. Also, SwiftMud, they manage what's called the SWIM plan, the Surface Improvement and Management Plan. And one of the components of the legislative requirements of the SWIM plan that SwiftMud does, they do water clarity, and they do vegetation, and they do recreation. So they actually have an ongoing management plan and research, which is quite extensive. And you can look at the SWIM plan. I think most of you, I've held this up many times. You'll see that they do have extensive programs on vegetation. So I would think, at least before RRC would endorse something like this, we would want to hear from the Aquatic Preserve Manager, which is Jeff Sellers. We'd want to hear from the Springs Institute, which is Bob Knight. And we would want to hear from SwiftMud, and they have scientists. And perhaps, I think FWC would have a role in this too, because they have a wildlife legislative mission. So given those issues, I think those are things I think would have to be answered before we went ahead with the dredging project in the lower river. I think the agencies that I've identified, I think, should have a role to play in this. So I had a little more, but that's where I'll stop for now.
Thank you very much, Bill.
And what he did on the Rainbow, on the Crystal River, that's been a very successful project. I've seen it myself. I think that would be almost a minor resource restoration miracle. But those are concerns that I would have.
All right, thank you. Ms. Odom, anyone else signed up?
Tony Mann?
I'm Tony Mans, 16642 Southwest 67th Place. It's 34481 Ocala. I'm also in support of the Rainbow River restoration with the hydrilla removal. And to me, I'm not quite as versed as most folks about this muck, but to me, it seems like more of a problem than something that's natural. And I still have a major issue about folks upstream pulling hydrilla and just letting it drift downstream. I came in Sunday morning to our park and we have a spot that things kind of swirl around, so stuff settles there. So I could have picked up a wheelbarrow full of hydrilla, roots facing up, that you know somebody upstream has just raked their beautiful beach, and here it is planting in our neighborhood. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, may I just say one thing? May I just say one thing?
Sure.
I was upstream this weekend and I thought about you, because I was way above the KP hole.
Yes, ma'am.
And we were just hanging out there, and I'll just let you know, and it was floating, I don't know where it was coming from, but I was really high up on the river, and it was, the hydrilla was floating down, so I kept picking it up. I mean, I always do that anyway, but I did thank you, so I threw a piece of hydrilla on the ground.
Yes,
But it floats from somewhere even above the houses there.
Of course, it breaks off of that, but when it's floating roots up, I mean, to me, that was probably not a boat motor or something like that, could possibly
There's
be.
a lot of it.
But, it was brought up last meeting about the Rainbow River Conservation, getting with them to try to help promote some of this, and I'm sorry to say, but when I go upstream, it's the folks with that sign in their yard that are actually have a beautiful beach, and a lot of it is actually the eelgrass, which should be, like, we preserve every eelgrass we see, if possible. So that's kind of heartbreaking as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Odom, anyone else signed up?
I do not have anyone else signed up, and I do not have anyone on Zoom, but I have 2 written submissions after you're done with taking comments from the audience.
Okay, you want to read them into the record after we take comments? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this? Yes, Art.
Yeah, Art Jones, 12163 Palmetto Way. Just want to speak to a couple of things that Bill brought up just then. Yeah, we know that there is certain life beneath the benefit mats down there in the lower Rainbow River. And when we go through the permitting process, all of that is identified. And what we found in Crystal River was that those mats of Lingbia were basically killing everything that really should have been there. Yeah, sure, so a few clams have survived and some snails survived, but once we got that out of there and got the eelgrass growing again, the amount of aquatic life that returned was amazing. So now you've created this beautiful habitat again that was there previously before the years of degradation that happened. So I think that, yeah, we're going to be super careful when we do it. We're going to do it the best possible way. But by doing nothing, it just continues to degrade year after year after year. So I would like to just get the project started. And believe me, we will evolve. I mean, this is not going to happen overnight. This is a 5-year project. All of the people that need to be involved are going to be involved. The DEP, Swift Mud, I've spoken to them. Everybody wants to get involved and see the Rainbow River healing, getting better every year instead of getting worse. So I'm encouraged. I know that in Kings Bay one time, somebody who was opposed to the project took me out kayaking with them. We went over there to the Lingbia mats and they said, look, Art, can you see there's life there? There's little sand fleas around there and this and that, and this is life. So that's what's going to happen to the bay. It's just going to evolve into a more stagnant bay, and that's just the evolution of it. And I really didn't like that idea. I said, no, I want to take it the other way and make sure the evolution of it is more like it used to be naturally. Part of the problem with the river is we have to spray it because the hydrilla just takes over. And years and years and years of spraying have, yes, stopped the river from dying immediately from the hydrilla, been sort of emergency spraying, but it's accumulating the muck and stuff in the lower Rainbow. And the lower Rainbow River, once that's restored and we get that eelgrass in there again, it's going to help the whole ecosystem downstream too. It's going to be taking those nitrates out of the water column, and it's going to be creating the habitat for the otters again and everything else. So, you know, I'm looking for the city to support it. I talked to the legislative representative, Ralph Masulo. He says, yes, your applications for these grants are great. He goes, but we also want to see community support, and we want to see the community has some skin in the game. So that's why I'm starting with the city. After you, I've got an appointment with the County of Marion on the 19th. I'm going to ask them to match whatever you've done, and I'm going to ask other citizens to match what the city does. And I've also, in the past, in the year 2020, we put over $11,000 into the hand raking when I hired a contractor to help me. And we removed over 400,000 pounds of Lingbian hydrilla that ended up on farmland.
Okay, Art, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else like to speak to this item? Okay, no one else? No one on Zoom, Ms. Silva?
No, sir.
All right, we have a proposed motion.
I have
Is there-
two.
Excuse me.
He has two letters to
Excuse me.
read.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
excuse me. I'm
Also,
sorry.
I have input also.
First, we need to make a motion or not, and then that's part of the discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Odom?
Okay. Okay. This was submitted via email. My name is Katie Gucci, Guice. My husband and I live on 12205 Palmetto Way since 2017. We are passionate about the health and safety of the river and fully support the cleanup effort led by Art Jones, one rake at a time. We've been battling the hydrilla for years and have noticed it has gotten worse over time. The silt levels have risen, hydrilla is thick like a carpet in some areas, and the algae that forms is ever present and chokes out healthy river plants and wildlife. On a monthly basis, we spend about 8 to 12 hours in the water physically removing hydrilla, but it grows back within weeks. Some homeowners have given up, and the result is a thick mass of hydrilla from the riverbed to the surface. It creates hazardous conditions for children and inexperienced swimmers that may get caught up in it while swimming or tubing. It is in our community's interest to preserve the health, beauty, and safety of the river. We need a long-term solution to the invasive hydrilla epidemic. I believe Mr. Jones has put forth a viable plan for cleanup, removal of silt, hydrilla, and algae, and replanting with eelgrass. We have personally donated money, but recognize that to be successful in this endeavor, we will need significant funding from the community, local, and state level government. I urge our city council members to advocate for and financially support the hydrilla cleanup project. Thank you, Katie Gucci. One more. From Julianne Mendonca, 11894 East Blue Cove Drive. I urge the city council to give careful consideration to reviewing an old letter of support and donating thousands of taxpayer dollars to this project without proper research and education. Voters elected a new majority council so that we could have informed perspectives, not a regurgitation of the past. The presentations by Art Jones and Sand Shoreline have been very informational, and the end goal is what we all desire, river restoration. How many council members have done their homework to understand the process? Before you vote yes to donating to this cause, can you explain any of the potential risks or downfalls to the proposed plan? Have you seen documentation that permits can in fact be obtained from Florida DEP, Southwest Florida Water Management District, and/or Army Corps of Engineers? How will the process impact the Withlacoochee River and Lake Russo? What will be the impact on aquatic life? What will be the longevity of results? Where will the taxpayer donations go if the total fundraising effort falls short? What mechanisms are in place for financial accountability and transparency when seeking donations for such a large-scale effort? If these are questions that council cannot answer, I would understand. I certainly cannot answer them. That is why I will outreach to qualified people at the DEP, the Florida Springs Council, and Rainbow River Conservation to learn more and see if their perspectives align with Art's presentations. If they do, I will support donation to the effort. I appreciate Art Jones and his passion, but feeling confident behind the science of this project is what is most important. Taxpayer donations will be of no consequences if we are ill-informed.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you so much. That ends public comment. We do have a proposed motion. Is there anyone on council that would like to make the motion that's published?
I move to ratify the letter of support for Art Jones, one rake at a time, Rainbow River Restoration Project, and approve. I'd like to just make my motion I move to ratify the letter of support for Art Jones, one rake at a time, for the Rainbow River Restoration Project, and then have the approved money donation as a second if we decide to do funding.
Do we have a second to that? A second to that? This is just for the letter of recommendation.
Okay, yes.
Second. I think that's the proper way of doing it. I think these are actually two different
That's
concepts.
what I was thinking as
One's the
well.
letter and one's talking about how much money they want to have. Ms. Odom, the letter that's in question was a letter that was signed 3 years ago by council, correct? Unanimous?
That was what we were directed to base
Right.
the new letter on, was the old letter. That
Right.
was the consensus at the workshop.
So unanimously, that was passed in 2019, 2020,
Yes.
of which myself, Vice Mayor, and Ms. Williams were part of that vote, correct?
Yes.
So this is,
2020, they were on it also.
was that before, do you think that was before the elections
That was
or
before
after?
the election. So
Before.
I moved it
Oh, was
over.
It was before.
Oh,
It was
okay.
before.
Okay.
All right, so we have a letter that we already approved that is the same concept by 3 of the 5 council members. So we do have a motion and a second. Let's start the discussion. Who would like to open up the discussion? Ms. Govich?
I certainly would. Question for Art. Thank you. And I'd like to say, again, I know where your heart is, same place as everybody else's, clean up the mess. However, again, I don't want to sink your ship, but I see a lot of holes in it. Okay? If you could just remind me, because I couldn't find my notes before I got here today, what was the grand scale of the project? What's the total number on it? And it was a couple million, or what was it?
What are we looking to do here in the restoration
Yeah,
project?
you're talking about 5-year plan?
The 5-year plan,
Right.
yes. We want to start with the lower Rainbow River, which is the most impaired.
Right.
It's in the most distress. It's where the most limbia algae is. It's
We
where the
all know.
most silt
Yes,
is.
go on.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
Let me answer the question, please. That is approximately 25 acres. And we're looking to request about $10 million
Okay.
from the state legislature. That's up in
Right.
Tallahassee. So what we're looking to do right now is just raise enough money to get the kind of survey that we need, a very specific survey, not a survey from Bob Knight and his college students on water quality. But this is on exactly what is there, where we need to dredge, and what we're going to do with it, and a cost, and getting the permits from the Army Corps of Engineer and the DEP. And SWIFMUD will be all involved in that too. So that's, we're approximating it right now at $10 million. It may come in at 12, it may come in at 8. But it's probably going to be right around there, because what we've done is we've asked Sea and Shoreline, what is the average cost of what you're doing down there in Kings Bay? And it's running to just under $500,000 an acre. We're going to save a little bit here because we don't have to do the cages over the eelgrass when we plant it, because we don't have manatees here. In that $10 million is also going to be a maintenance contract on that to make sure the eelgrass survives. So we're starting out at 10 million. I think that the whole restoration of the Rainbow River is going to be greater than that. It's probably going to be up around $25 million. It's approximately 125 acres in total. But we don't have to restore the whole river. A lot of the river is in beautiful shape. And so we're going to make sure that whatever is in great shape, we're not going to touch it. We're just going to do what we can to help and get those hot spots out of the river.
Thank you. Okay, now, I've been doing my homework. And first of all, for a project of this scope, I would think that there should be a bidding process. And here's why. There are 3 major companies that do what they call hydraulic dredging. They also call it suction dredging. One is Sea and Shoreline. The other that has already worked up in our area is Gator Dredging. They're a big company also. Gator Dredging actually started the Kings Bay project.
They did.
Okay? And that was 7 years ago, 2015. They actually did the permitting process for that project. And then Sea and Shoreline, as more money, as I understand, was generated for the project, Sea and Shoreline.
Right, and some of the people from Gator Dredging are on Sea and Shoreline. It kind of evolved.
Yeah, it expedited the process. It was a good partnership between the 2 companies. So there's 2 companies. There's also a 3rd company out there. The biggest in the southeast is called Southern Dredging and Marine. They have more equipment, more experience, and expedite their jobs because of the amount of equipment and the amount of personnel they have. Example would be Gator Dredging would send 2 barges and have 2 crews working. Possibly another company like Southern Dredging could have 10 barges and 10 crews working and shorten up the timeline for the project to be completed. So that's one problem I have. If nobody's researched into the other companies, not only for what they would charge, but what their capabilities are. I've done my homework this. I actually called these companies and talked to their hydraulic engineers. There's a big problem here. If you compare Kings Bay, a bay is not a river, and a river is not a bay. And here's what one of the engineers told me. This is going to be a tough, tough project because most dredging projects here in Florida are done in canals. I've seen the process right where my parents lived when they were in Port St. Lucie. It's a stinky, smelly project that can go on for a long, long time. Okay, so I've seen it. I know a little bit what's involved. Bigger companies have bigger and better equipment, such as what they call turbidity screens. A turbidity screen is a big screen you're going to literally corral your project with. Okay. Not all companies have those, or a big enough of a turbidity screen to set up around the project to negate the problems that are involved with dredging in a river. Again, we're talking a river. What does a river have? It is a current. Our river out there has a very strong velocity to its current, particularly in the rainy season. So, one particular hydraulic engineer said to me, "There's a problem with your river." And he had been up here and he's familiar with the river. Said even on that lower section of the river, you've got a big, strong current, particularly in the rainy season. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be mucking out your areas of deepest muck. Okay, what happens? You're going to make a big pit, and the current will continue to bring debris, which turns into what? It's organic material. The debris drops into the pit, and the process starts all over again. Sediment will come in the current. Okay, think of it. You got a pit, and there's going to be a slope, and there's a strong current. He said, great idea for the project, but how long will it be between all those empty muck pits just to fill in again? And that was a concern of Jeff Sowards also. Jeff Sowards is our Rainbow River Aquatic Preserve Manager. Okay, his title also is Senior Aquatic Wildlife Biologist for DEP. And just as Bill Bibbert had said, the permitting process, even for the surveys, is going to have to be through Southwest Florida Water Management District, Florida DEP, and the Army Corps of Engineers. And they're familiar with those projects. Okay, and one of the concerns would be that all of the silt and muck that does escape, you're not going to contain it all. It's not exactly a selective process. It's going to end up going where? Downstream into Lake Russo. It's going to be a major concern of the people of Swiftbud because Lake Russo already has its nitrate overload projects. Okay, also, so again, before I think the city would get involved, I would like to ask Mr. Jones to go to other major dredging companies and see what they have to say of the project as far as its success.
Yeah, for sure.
And also the expense.
Just to let you know, we have contacted Gator Dredging. Gator Dredging can...
Mr. Jones, wait a second. This is council comment right now.
Okay. Thought you just wanted an answer.
Let me just clarify something for Ms. Covich. Right now, the motion that's on the floor that was seconded is whether or not to reapprove the letter supporting the project. That's what the motion is.
And it's not a project, it's not a detail that he's going to use X company for X amount of money. It's just we are as a, can you read that letter back, Mandy? It's basically.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's just read that letter back so council knows exactly what this
And
motion
while you're
is.
pulling that up, you were saying, Mr. Jones, that you've already contacted those other
Yes, I have my executive secretary, Michelle, Dr. Michelle, that was here Wednesday, following this on Zoom, and she's sending me comments to answer some of those questions.
Council, if you, let me read it so make sure everybody can hear it. To whom it may concern, what was the date that this was
This would be today's date.
signed?
This was July 7th because they needed this letter by today, this
Okay.
morning, to submit it with a grant application.
Okay, but originally it was 2 or 3, this is a reprint of a letter that was 2 or 3 years ago.
In 2019, yes.
19. All right, to whom it may concern. This is what the motion is, whether or not we're going to approve this letter or not. The Dunnellon City Council, representing the citizens of the city of Dunnellon, Florida, USA, in a unanimous consensus on July 6, 2022, declared that it fully supported the efforts of Art Jones in his 501c3, organized one rick at a time, to apply for and hopefully obtain any available grant opportunities to help with the cleanup and restoration efforts in the Rainbow River. The Dunnellon City Council fully supports the issuances of all permits necessary for removal of invasive weeds and algae and replanting of native grass in the areas where it belongs in order to restore fish and wildlife habitat, along with improving water clarity and reducing nutrient pollution. And letter?
That's it.
So if you read this, this is pretty much a generic statement that we're in support of trying to restore the Rainbow River, supporting Art's efforts. It's not very specific really to anything. It's almost a statement that we are supportive of restoring the Rainbow River and we're supportive of what Art is trying to do. So the question is, with the motion and the second on the floor, can continue discussion. Are we good with this letter or not? Yes, Ms. Kenny.
As far as this discussion has gone to date, it is considerably deeper than the public has been exposed to in the past. Personally, I am most in line with the letter from Julian Mendoza. It is not that we are not interested in working with Art. It is also a need. This is such a huge project that we are looking also for people like Jeff Sowards and Bob Knight, and certainly appreciate the depth of knowledge that was brought to us in terms of the discussion and the explanation from Bill River. And I think possibly giving ourselves additional time and tabling it will just be an opportunity to get the people who, the scientific group, further communication with some of the people at a state level, and see what the scope of this, of cleaning our river, which I'm certainly think everybody here is heartfelt about doing whatever needs to be done with the river. But I don't think at this point that maybe we should have a different type of letter. Not that we can't have a letter, but the kind of letter that we have should express more the kind of feeling that the letter from Julianne Mendoza expressed, because we're going to need a lot of people with a lot of scientific background to do the right thing. And God forbid that we do the wrong thing.
Clarification, Ms. Odom, this is a time-sensitive letter?
This letter already went out.
Yeah,
I mean, it needs to...
already went out.
It's already been out. Because it was unanimously...
We agreed on it last Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a problem with the letter simply because absolutely the state and everybody who lives on the river is concerned with invasive weeds, whether they be submergent or emergent, the algae, da-da-da. But it doesn't mention at all a dredging project. We're talking about two different beasts here.
So this letter has already, by consensus, been approved, signed, and signed, correct? So it's already been done. It's finished business.
We're just ratifying it.
Correct. All right, so we're actually discussing something that was already done.
Yes, sir.
However, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Given the fact that the letter has already gone out, that does not mean that we cannot be bringing this up in terms of discussion with future council meetings to see how this is going to expand and how many people will be incorporated in it. Because we do need the scientific community to be looking at this. And this is the lifeblood of the people who live here.
Understood.
Mr. Mayor, just real
Yes,
quick. then.
please, continue.
And I think maybe this is a project that the city of Dunnellon, this council, is not doing.
correct.
It's in our yard. You are our neighbor. And we as a council, you've come to us as a council not for, and we luckily have someone who knows a lot about the stuff that's under there. All that stuff that's under there.
Aquatic life.
No, not like aquatic like I get, but in all honesty. But, so you're fortunate that this council does have knowledge about, A, what the river used to look like and what it sadly looks like now. However, if I had an option to give you advice, which I do, I would say that it would be wonderful for you, Art Jones, and One Rake at a Time, to perhaps have a gathering at a church hall, at the bingo hall, an education where it's not in a city forum, because we truly have nothing to do with this except if you ever have to get a permit from us, and of course you ask for a letter, and of course you're asking for funding to help with the donation. But as far as it being it's not a city project. So I think it might be great if you could, and your group, and the doctor that was here, she gave a great presentation the other day, perhaps get a place to have an open house like the FDOT does when they have new projects come in, God bless you, and they put up the placards and such. I think maybe that would take it out of the making it feel like it's a city project and it's a resident active project, and it's a citizen project. I think that might be a great idea.
Yeah, we can certainly do that in the future.
And as the
Absolutely.
mayor always says, you can always have a booth at one of our lovely events. I got you before you
Yeah.
can say it.
Well, if everybody has a booth that we've recommended,
We're gonna,
you're going to need some extra space.
I'll be at the beer booth.
All right,
by the way.
let's address the second part of this and see if we want to do anything.
Well,
So,
we're still on the first vote. We have the first vote still.
but it already had been sent out.
You have a motion and a second to ratify the letter.
To ratify it, even though it's been sent out.
Ratify.
Okay,
Ratify.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. To ratify the letter. That would be quite awkward to have
Thank you,
a letter
council. Thank you very much.
signed that we unratify.
Yeah. Bill, can I just mention a couple of things?
Yes.
Especially what Janet said. Like I say, gator dredging does not do the eelgrass planting. That's why it evolved into sea and shoreline. And the other big company that you mentioned is really, I feel, just too big for the Rainbow River. You know, this is a delicate system. We want to be as unobstructive as possible. We are so happy with Sea and Shoreline with the work they've done there. Every year they've done it, they've gotten a little bit better, and they're just so careful. And we do have turbidity barriers up and everything, so all water return to the river is sparkling clean. So we're very, very careful with it. And there is no stench there at all. But you're right about the current on the river. It's a little bit different. That's why we're doing the diver vacuuming to bring it all in that way. So, because you can't put turbidity barriers up like that.
We have to move on.
Okay,
I'd
sure.
just like to
We really have to move on. We're not even halfway through our agenda.
Great.
But thank you. And in regards to the funding of it, I think that would be a vote for a little bit of a later time.
Okay, well, I'm going to propose it because this was on the agenda.
But it doesn't have to be proposed.
Well, before you do, you've made a motion and you voted on that motion. Before you make another motion on a separate motion, you'll need to accept public comment again.
If we even need to do it.
Okay.
Or we can table it at this time.
All right, because this was on the agenda, so.
But we don't have to do it. Just because it's there, it doesn't have to be done.
It's a proposed motion. It doesn't mean anyone has to make the motion.
It doesn't even have to be discussed.
Doesn't appear that the council.
We were directed to come back to you with, you asked Jan to look and see what, if anything was available in the current budget at the workshop, and to bring that back to you at the council meeting.
Okay.
So that's where the proposed motion comes from.
So my comment to you is I think what's lacking, what the council is looking for, is some sort of statements from other individuals that have expertise as you do. Preferably a statement from Bob Knight, Jeff Sewell, support of RRC, Sierra Club, Florida Springs Council, or Swift Mud. So what the second part of this proposed motion was to actually come up with a donation. And it seems like the council is struggling with that aspect because you don't have official documentation from people that have expertise in this that are verifying that they believe this is a good idea. And I would think you would improve your standing if you could get some letters of support from some of these other people that have
Okay,
expertise.
sure, I can contact Swift Mud because, you know, what we try to do is put everything up there on that website. So all the science is out there. DEP reports, the Swift Mud reports, everything. From Bob Knight's Spring Council, it's all up there. And if you read through there,
It's true.
you'll understand.
Let's break it down. I mean, let's break it down for fairness. You're here. You don't have a letter from Swift Mud. You don't have a letter from Bob Knight. You do not have a letter from Jeff Sewell. You don't have a letter from
Jeff
Sierra Club.
Sowards. Jeff
Sowell.
Sowards.
RRC, the Florida Springs, you don't have a letter.
I didn't know I needed them tonight. I'm sorry, Mayor. I didn't know you'd be requesting them.
And what I'm saying
You know, I
is
didn't- I
what the
really
rest of this
didn't either.
council is struggling with.
Right, yeah,
He's just saying that might help.
yeah, come on, sure.
When these letters and these people are all involved, I feel confident that there will be a very large opportunity for you. No one is trying to exclude you. What we're trying to do is incorporate all the science that we possibly can. And these are the people who are the scientists.
I'd like to make one last comment. And that is, I think I brought this to the floor the last meeting I attended here, email correspondence from Jeff Sowards, Senior Aquatic Wildlife Biologist and Manager of the Aquatic River Preserve of Rainbow River. He wrote back to me, "Thank you for forwarding Art Jones's PowerPoint presentation presented at your recent City of Dunnellon Council workshop. Direct quote, the proposed project, suction dredging of the lower Rainbow River, could be full of unforeseen consequences considering the large scale and scope of the project," and then he discusses everything that I brought up. So you're hearing there from the guy, Jeff Sowards, who's been preserve manager of Rainbow River Aquatic Preserve for 20 years.
Yeah, no, there's going to be challenges. It's not going to be easy. In fact, the grant that we're applying for right now is for a pilot project. To do 3 acres, make sure everything works, and then expand from there. So, yeah. No, we're aware of that, Jane, and we know that it's worth the effort, though. It really is. It's worth the effort. We need to say...
Council, is it correct that
Yes, ma'am.
we prefer to just table this to a later time?
So, Randy says we have somebody on Zoom.
I don't know if you want to allow any further public comment, but I do have a hand raised in Zoom right now.
I mean, I think.
We're ready to move on. Does anybody want to make a comment
No, it was on Zoom, sir.
on Zoom? Okay.
I have a hand raised.
Okay.
Was it after
Please
the-
do it.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes?
Yes, hi, this is Dr. Michelle Savilich. I was there at the workshop last week, and I just thought I would be available if you have other questions, but I can address a lot of the comments that were just raised. If you'd like me to, if you want to table it for later, I'm more than happy to as well, but I just wanted to make myself available. Many of these studies have already been done for Safe Coastal River. They had pre- and post-studies of the benefit communities. We are working to actually meet the goals of the swim plan. And I can address many of some of the concerns Ms. Cubbage has about this project. Most of the science is well established. It's been done all over Florida. We're not reinventing the wheel here, so if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Michelle, maybe you could come back at another time when you're here in public, and that way we could maybe get questions for you that you'll be able to answer them.
Of course, yeah, I was typing in for the question and answer box. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. This is all new to me, but yeah, I will be more than happy to make myself available for the future.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Council. We really gave that a thorough vetting.
Scrubbing.
Really looked at it hard. So it's still open to Art. We just asked you to do a little bit more homework for us. We go to item number 6, Form DR-420, Certification of Taxable Value 2022. Except, can I don't know if the public can make a comment on something they might not understand.
And I can make a comment on anything.
Well, what basically is this, and then we'll have public comment.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, what this is Marion County has determined what the value of Dunnellon property is for 2022. That's what our budget is based on. Through formulas, and if you scroll down to section 2,
Well, we're going to have a public comment as soon as you make this quick summary of what this is.
through formula, we take those values at the top, imply a proposed millage rate to come up with what is going to be our revenue for next year.
Mm-hmm.
That is what this form is doing. It's for you, council, to propose a millage rate for us to prepare a budget against. Now, this is just a proposed millage rate. It will be advertised on the trim notice. This will also be where you establish your public hearing dates for September.
Okay, that's good. I think that's good. That's good. It's good. Okay, public comment. This is the beginning of us discussing our proposed millage rate for the coming year. Does anyone want to make comments on what they believe the millage rate could be, should be, or whatever? This is your opportunity to make a comment on it, and then council will move forward. Anybody want to make a comment on millage rate? Tim?
Tim Inskeep, 12140 Maple Street, here in Dunnellon. As I said Wednesday, I don't believe this is the time to raise the taxes 6% by using the 6.5 millage rate. Not just the homeowners are going to feel more pain, but the domino effect will also be passed on to the consumers, whether it be renters, folks purchasing goods and services, because everybody's going to be, as we all know, the businesses have to pass it on to stay in business. And this is simply just going to compound the pain, the inflationary pain that's already, everybody's already feeling with the prices that we're seeing today. I think we at least need to stay with the $2022 rather than go to the 6.5 millage rate. And that's all I have. Thank you. And I'm not just asking anybody to do it. I've got one more point. I'm actually going through the budget line by line to offer suggestions, where at least I believe, and then can do with it what.
What I would suggest on that, since you're usually limited to 3 minutes, and that might take more than 3 minutes, if you would take the time and write it out, and then send it to every council member, and then when you get up, you can go over the highlights with it, and
Great.
we'll be ready for you.
Great.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Super.
Thank you. It's a fun budget to get through.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to item number 6 before we let Jan finish her explanation? Okay, Jan. No one signed up on Zoom?
No, sir.
Okay, Jan, I apologize. I just felt that people really didn't understand what we were getting ready to do.
This is setting your proposed millage rate. What you decide tonight, you cannot go any higher as we progress through the budget process. You can go lower. You just can't go higher. We still have some unknown expenses that are not factored into the budget at this time. I don't even know if I'll have them for your workshop on the 20th. I have most of them, but I'm missing a major revenue source, which I don't know if it's going to increase. It may decrease. It's a revenue source that funds your operations. It funds your gasoline. It funds your electricity for departments. It funds your pens and pencils. So it's strictly an operating revenue source that I have no idea what it's going to come in at. There are also some expenses that we still need to work into the budget. Your property and liability insurance. I don't know what that's going to come in at. We're still working on the mandatory minimum wage increase that we have to somehow factor into the budget. So I caution you from setting it too low at this point in time. Doesn't mean you can't go lower. Doesn't mean in September you can't decide to go to your rollback rate. It's just, this is just starting our process right now. Now, I do have a millage rate table that'll show you for every tenth of a mill, we go down to 6.4. That's approximately $20,000 off the budget. If we go down to the rollback rate, you have just taken away $98,000. That's $83,000 in our general fund for operations and almost $15,000 that goes to CRA. So for every millage rate decrease, it not only affects our general fund, it affects CRA. So that's the only recommendation I have is I wouldn't go too low right now. You can't go higher. And if we're facing some cuts because you've decided to go lower, those cuts will probably be quite painful. Most likely it will affect employees because that's your largest expense. And for example, Troy has a new employee in his budget. Is that going to be affected? Are you going to have to get into layoffs because you've taken away $100,000 where you can't cut your property insurance. So these are just things that we work through as we move along these next few months. And your final decision is in September. In fact, I believe it's September 26th. That's when you will say, this is what we want the millage rate to be. After you hear from the public during the public hearings, as well as during your budget workshops. If you'd like to see the millage rate table that I prepared to show you, we can do that now, or we can wait until the budget workshop.
I have a question that might answer that. It seems like we're every tenth of a point below the 6.5. It lops around 20,000 off.
Around 2020.
So that's a good working number. So, you know, if we went down to the rollback rate, which is 6.09.
Yes.
Um,
It'd be $98,000.
Yeah, so it's pretty consistent. So that's a pretty good way of kind of keeping track with it. Okay.
May I?
Yes.
And let me just make sure I understand, because I think this is already I've done a few times, but in the past, we've always gone to 7 on the certification of taxable value. And again, I'm going to say it one more time. That is not the tax millage rate that I want to personally pay on my home, nor do I want any of my neighbors or family to come knocking on my door. So, but we do that in case of, because we can't go at 8% if we do 7, like if we found out that our insurance was going to be $200,000 a year, we're stuck at 7. We have to find that money someplace else.
Someplace else.
So, but we have historically done it at 7, and then we've come down.
Yes.
I know at one time we were at, I think we were at 7.
I don't have the millage rate.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's
But
irrelevant.
you're correct. We
Yeah.
were over 7 mils.
Yes, when I
For a few years.
first started, yes, and we got it down.
Yes.
And we've always wanted to go back down to that rollback rate. I mean, that'd be amazing, but it's just what you said, $98,000. Where do we take that from? It's going to come from our CRA, which is where we're improving our historic district, which is a very big project that we as a council plus as citizens want to occur. So I just want to make sure that it's 7 would be the highest we could go if pandemic number 999 hits us again and we're losing revenues.
That's correct. Now, keep in mind, the budget that I'm going to be presenting on
It's
the
not at
20th
7.
is at 6.5. So through that discussion, if you all want more added into the budget, the 7 mils would allow, if you wanted to add into the budget, you could, without taking away from something else. So you've got flexibility, and I just wouldn't limit, right now, your flexibility to decide what you want your budget to end up being. Also keep in mind, you're paying the same inflationary costs that everybody else is.
That's my fear, the gas.
Gasoline is sky high. So departments have added increased cost for gasoline in the next year's budget. If gasoline goes down, we don't spend it. If we take in that revenue, it goes in the bank for other things, whether it be unanticipated projects during the year or you can even use it for capital, future capital. So it's all, up to you all. But I do caution as far as really restricting yourself at this point.
So at a later point in time, it may be justified.
Absolutely. Once I present the budget to you and you have ask questions of your department heads, there may be things that you don't feel are necessary in the budget that I'll take out and lower the overall budget. So yes, you can go to the rollback rate in September if that's what you decide to do.
Well, I do think that it's a long process, and this is the subject that I was initially trying to get to, so I apologize for that. But definitely, I think we need to have a lot more public input.
Absolutely. And you do have that opportunity with the budget workshops that I've got on the calendar. Now, I'm anticipating at least 2 more minimum before your public hearings. You all may want to have more. I've got more scheduled on the calendar if you feel you need to continue the discussion, or if maybe in August, I have all the expenses and everything's been presented, and you're pretty comfortable with what I've presented. Then in September, the public, tends to public hearings, the mandated public hearings that we have to have, and the budget can be adjusted even further.
I like that.
And they can do public comment at these.
Oh, you have, what, July, August, 3 months of public comment.
So what are you looking for tonight? Are you looking for a number?
I'm looking for a proposed millage rate.
And being on the council, like the time I have, it seems like we've always started at 7 and we've dropped it down.
By the time we're all said and done, and we adopt a budget, yes.
So we started at 7 just to cover the spread in case of an unforeseen, and we've dropped it down to 6.5 when it came to crunch time, correct?
And you don't even really do a budget at 7, do you?
No, what I'm going to present to you next week, I guess it is at 6.5.
Yeah.
Now, if something comes in between now and then, I find out about our general insurance, and I work it in. I may present a budget that's higher than 6.5 for you all to work down.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to authorize the city clerk to certify Form DR 420, certification of taxable value 2022, and set the first public hearing for the year 2022-2023 tentative budget and tentative millage rate of September 12th, 2022, with the final hearing on September 26th, 2022 at 7% millage. 7 mils, sorry, 7 mils.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. So for everyone knows, the millage rate is not 7%, that's just the starting point, and we will try to work down from there, and I'm sure.
But you can't go down from there.
Yeah. So don't leave here thinking that we raised the mills to 7%. Okay, we go to number 7, proclamation PRO 2022-10. Dunnellon, we okay? Oh, did I cut you off? Was it something I didn't need to hear?
No, she just said thank you, Jesus. And I just giggled.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Proclamation 2022, we're at number 7-10, Dunnellon City Council election. Mandy, do you want to make any comments for the public before they?
I spoke a little bit about this at the workshop on Wednesday. This is the proclamation. Your charter actually has language that states that the city council will declare the election at your regular meeting in July every year, and we've always done that by proclamation. So this is really no different than any other proclamation. I'll need a motion to read it into the record, and once I've read it into the record, we'll need a motion to approve.
Okay. Any public comment on item number 7? This is the beginning of this coming elections in November. This is the beginning of the process. Any comments by the public? Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
When we have a second, we have any discussion? I guess it's just read into the record. This item doesn't need
I need a
discussion.
vote. A vote.
Oh, all in favor?
What do we do, say no? We don't have an election?
That's the option.
Along with decertifying the letter that we already approved, right?
We'll do it all tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, now proposed motion. Do we have a motion?
I have to read it
Yes,
first.
Yes, to read it.
Oh, we have to read it? Go ahead.
Title.
Proclamation number PRO 2022-10, Dunnellon City Council election. Whereas the mayor of the city council for the city of Dunnellon proclaims a general election to be held on November 8, 2022 for the election of council members for the following seats. Seat number occupied by number 2, Louise Kinney, 3, C. Anita Williams, 4, Valerie Hanchart. Whereas any individual interested in seeking election to the city council may do so by obtaining election information and qualifying forms from the city's website at www.dunnellon.org or by contacting the office of the city clerk and requesting qualification forms. The qualifying period begins at 12 noon on August 22nd, 2022 and ends at 12 noon on August 26, 2022. City Hall office hours on August 26, 2022 will be from 8 a.m. until 12 noon. Whereas petitions as well as the proper financial disclosure and candidate qualifying forms must be submitted to the city clerk no later than 12 noon on August 26. The cost for qualifying will be $45 plus 1% of council's annual salary equaling $18 for a total of $63. Whereas in the event that the election results in a candidate not receiving the most votes cast, the mayor of the city council for the city of Dunnellon proclaims a runoff election to be held on January 17, 2023. Be it hereby proclaimed that an election will take place on November 8, 2022, and qualifying packages are available on the City of Dunnellon website at www.dunnellon.org. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Dunnellon to be affixed this 11th day of July, 2022.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a proposed motion.
Proclamation PRO 2022-10 be approved.
We have a second. Ms. Williams, seconds. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous. Okay, the election is officially in a countdown mode right now. All right, we go to number 8. This is the first reading of ordinance 2022-09, Blue Run Park Rules and Regulations. I guess, Andrew, you give us a preview of what that is before public comment?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be happy to. Just following in line with the presentation that was made during the workshop on Wednesday, this ordinance is actually implementing or will possibly be implementing some changes that are proposed to the management plan for Blue Run Park. And that would be coming forward in a resolution. What was discussed at the workshop was to go ahead and bring the ordinance for first reading, and then the ordinance would not be adopted until the actual resolution came forward at the next meeting. I know that, to my knowledge, I don't believe FCT has responded yet. That's typical in our communications with them. They do take a little bit longer. But what the ordinance does, just to go into that, for anybody that was not here, there are 2 components to it. The first is dealing with signage for the KP Hole shuttle. It's taking a provision directly out of the county's contract with their contractor for KP Hole that just requires that the KP Hole shuttle be identified, which helps the city understand and be aware of what's going on at Blue Run Park when it comes to transportation, because that is limited by the plan. The other thing that this ordinance does is incorporate some language that protects the trails within the park and restricts bulky and heavy equipment being carried through the nature trails for several reasons that were discussed. Preservation of the trails, personal safety, and as well as restriction of commercial off-site use. That's really all I have. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Very good. Let's have public comment first, and we'll take it from there. Is there anyone who would like to have public comment on item number 8? Anyone signed up for that, Ms. Odom?
Mr. Vibert?
Okay.
Bill Bibbert, 9552 Southwest 192nd Court Road, Dunnellon. I just have a couple of quick things. I've already discussed these with Andrew, so he's very familiar with what I'm going to say. First thing, on page 2 of the resolution, I just wanted to make one very small point, where it says, whereas in furtherance of that goal, Section 5 of the management plan requires the city to adopt park rules, regulations, and policies to ensure the protection. It's actually not a goal, it's an FCT requirement. So it's just a small change, but it's actually an important change. It's in furtherance of the FCT requirement. Within 1 year, which was 14 years ago, the city was to have an ordinance in place to enforce the rules of Blue Run Park. So that's just a small point. That's a change of one word. It's a requirement, not a goal. And sometimes I think people are confused. What we're doing now is we are simply making an ordinance that we were required to do in 2008 that we didn't have an opportunity to do that we're doing now. The rules are almost the same. You know, I've heard this said this many times. So there really isn't anything revolutionary about these rules that we have now. They're pretty much the same. Commercial use has been prohibited in Blue Run Park since the very first day that it opened up, which we didn't have any until recently. The second suggestion I'm making, we have on page 5 of the actual ordinance, I'm looking at line down to beginning in 151, where we talk about bulky or heavy equipment. My suggestion is that even if you leave that in there, you could add another lowercase x after W. And the language that I had suggested to Andrew last time I was here, any activity associated with commercial use is prohibited from the park trails. To me, that sort of covers the same thing. If you're going to use the park trails for any commercial use to get from point A to point B, from the ramp over to San Jose Drive, that's associated with a commercial use, that's prohibited. You can't use the trails for commercial use. So I'm suggesting either you substitute that sentence for W or leave W and add another X after that. But I think that's important to have in there so that the understanding of it is very specific. You can't use the trails for commercial use. So those are my 2 suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want to make a final. This is probably inappropriate, but I want to say it anyway. Sometimes when you get into these contentious public issues, which I've been through many times myself, one of the strategies is to kill the messenger. Find a person who is advocating a certain point of view and then go after that person and see if you can attack them personally. Well, this has happened to most park people many times in their career. I think it's happened to some people in this room, perhaps. But I was accused, and it got up to the county commission level, that's why I'm bringing it up now, that I was seen following a Kayak Adventures bus. That is not true. That is a false statement. Also, the fact that the bus that I was parked next to and talking with the person who was driving the bus who said, "Hello, Bill," and I returned the greeting, that bus had identification. It did not have identification. That's one of the reasons I was looking at it. So I did not follow anybody. Please don't go after the messenger. Let's stay with the issues and talk about the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to agenda item number 8? Bill, my one comment to you is if you want to follow a bus, you have every right in the world to do that, and you don't have to explain that to anybody.
Well, I have no interest in following.
I know. So, so whoever asks you why you're following a bus, you could say it's none of your business. You can follow them 24 hours a day if you want to.
It was brought up by the county director of parks.
Yeah, okay. Okay, public comment is over. We have a proposed motion. Can we have a motion?
Okay, I move ordinance ORD 2022-09 be read by title only.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay. Mandy, is this when you lead it, or we have
All those in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay. All right, Mandy?
Ordinance number ORD 2022-09. An ordinance of the City of Dunnellon, Florida, amending Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dunnellon, amending Article 1 of Chapter 46, creating Article 3, Blue Run Park, establishing rules and regulations for Blue Run Park via ordinance, establishing fines for violations, establishing the appeal process, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you very much.
I move.
Have a motion?
I move ordinance ORD 2022-09 be approved by pending approval of resolution 2022-07.
We have a second?
A second.
I know you want to kick me out, but I would ask that you do a motion on the two suggestions that I made, or at least one of them.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If anybody wants to discuss what Mr. Viver said, you can do it at this time.
Well,
Change scope of requirement.
To amend it, I thought that that was incorporated after
that's-
you
no,
discussed
ma'am.
with the attorney.
No,
So-
ma'am, I did not. I did it,
But the motion could be amended, could it not?
The motion was to read by title only, and then the motion would be to approve. Now, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance as it's written. Andrew, my question to you would be, if it does not change the title of the ordinance, can you make, if council chooses to consider the changes recommended by Mr. Viver, could that be done without having another first reading?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll do a discussion real quick.
Yes, yes.
I don't mind changing the word goal to whatever, if that's a thing with you.
And I'm not actually finding it, and maybe it's because I'm looking at the ordinance and not in the resolution. Do you mind if I ask Mr. Viber where, specifically the whereas clause?
It's in your resolution.
So this is not the we're not passing the resolution right now.
Resolution tonight.
This is just the first reading of the ordinance. The resolution comes before you in August.
Yeah.
So you're not voting on the resolution at this time.
Well, my comment, the first comment was on the resolution, so we're fine with that. My second comment was on the ordinance itself.
I have an issue with biting our nose off to spite ourselves. Because what if you're talking about trails and what happens if, and I'm not talking inner tubes, I'm talking bicycles. What happens if our local or somebody's renting bicycles from Citrus County and they ride their rented bicycle down our trails? Are they therefore not allowed to ride the bicycles?
That's a good question.
Because
Yes.
because that does go on at San Jose trails, they rent out bicycles, or not San, but anyway, I rent out there. So again, I'm not saying I understand where your thinking is from probably, but I'm trying to think not just inner tubes, but bicycles. Because that is one of our things that we're promoting is bicycles. So I mean, if we do that, wouldn't that prohibit somebody on a bicycle?
Well,
Or am I overthinking it?
the ordinance has a definition for commercial use. So any type of activity that meets that definition on trails is already prohibited. Renting a bicycle off-site and traversing is not encapsulated within that definition, so that would not be a problem.
Okay.
I think
That's a good question.
as far as language and what could be associated with commercial use, that can be a little vague, but certainly if there is an issue, that can be further fleshed out and added, and it might be something that the council wants to do. And certainly, that tonight may be a little bit premature, just to make sure the language is just right. You do have some discussions coming up where council's going to be looking at overarching park regulation. So there's going to be another opportunity to get language in there that needs to be in there, and it can certainly be fleshed out. So I think that, that's certainly an option that council has to get that, because that's going to be something very picky, the associated, what does that mean? It's something we're really going to get right. And certainly another opportunity, the council's going to have opportunities every year to evaluate how this ordinance is working and make changes to it. So that's just to consider. If you want to make a change tonight, we can do that. And if it doesn't work, or if there's better language for the second reading, that can be incorporated at that time too, because the language in the title is just establishing rules and regulations. I mean, you can make changes to it and you may get requested changes from FCT, the county, or I think we've already heard from OGT that is no longer OGT anymore. They're actually had up their name earlier.
Parks,
But they
service.
combined two agencies into one, and so they have a different name now. So you may be seeing some further changes anyhow, so.
So instead of asking you to do something on fly, so to speak, maybe go ahead and keep it as it is now with, maybe you could look into making sure that it would be okay for something like Mr. River had said, but then worry about my concern of bicycle rentals and those types of things.
Yes, I've received a few, I think, very, very good, some very good insight from Mr. Hibbert on a couple of different rules. And I'm definitely keeping that on hand as we go through the commercial parks. I think some of those suggestions work and can be expanded beyond Blue Run Park and incorporated into overarching regulations. So I have those in, you know, on file and do intend to refer to them as council's going through this process.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Andrew, I was very comfortable with what we had proposed. Spent a lot of time talking with you about it, a lot of times thinking about it. To change something right now without having a chance to look at it, I would feel very uncomfortable doing that. I'm not familiar with what Mr. Bibbert is proposing, but I am very familiar with what I thought we were going to do.
Yeah, me too.
I thought that was pretty much a slam dunk. So to change anything, I like the word on the fly, I would feel very uncomfortable, but I feel comfortable enough to go forward with how it was written, as you had written it. I spent a lot of time thinking about it and talking with you about it. I feel good about it. Now, if after talking to Mr. Bibbert, if he has come up with some good suggestions that you think add something to it, and you want to delay this vote or whatever, speak up, because I don't have a grasp yet on what he's proposing.
No, I think some of those suggestions, like I said, work well in the overarching park regulation that could be applicable everywhere. And if they need to be pared down, then that can be done. But this is just moving it on to second reading. And like I said, changes can be made at any point in time. So since this is what's being presented, certainly things can be incorporated.
So his suggestions could be changed at the second reading?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that will give us the time we need. All right. Okay, anyone else want to make comment? Okay, do we have
We had the motion, we had the second.
we had a motion and a second, we've had discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Bibbert.
Okay, Mandy, is this for you to the public hearing statement?
Yes, sir. All persons wishing to address the city council will be asked to limit their comments to the specific subject being addressed. Public opinions and input are valued by the council. However, it is requested that comments are directed at specific issues rather than personal comments directed toward the council members or staff in order to foster mutual respect between council members and the public. Members of the public in attendance at public forums should listen courteously and attentively to all public discussions before the body and focus on the business at hand. They shall refrain from interrupting other speakers, making personal comments not germane to the business of the body, or otherwise interfering with the orderly conduct of meetings. Members of the public addressing city council and boards or commissions on a specific project or proposal are requested to disclose any personal interest or relationship and any business, professional, or financial interest with any individual project or proposal regarding the subject matter under review. Members of the public should always err on the side of more public disclosure, not less, in order to provide integrity to the public process.
Thank you very much. So now it's the gavel down, correct? All right. Agenda item number 9. It is now 8:05 p.m. and I close the regular meeting and open the public hearing to discuss ordinance 2022-06, amendment to section 5 of the city charter, amending purchase requirements for goods. In parentheses, public hearing advertised on the city's website on June 9th, 2022, and advertised in the Riverland News on June 27th, 2022.
24th.
June 24th, 2022. Okay, thank you. Okay, staff comments?
Council, there is an agenda summary in your backup, just explaining a little bit of the history on this. This is an amendment to the charter, which requires a referendum, which requires it to go on the ballot for a vote. So back in February, you approved an amendment to the purchasing policy, which increased the threshold for public improvements requiring sealed bids from 15 to 35,000. That ordinance was adopted at final reading on March 14th. So what that did was it allowed staff to be able to get quotes, at least 2 quotes for anything under 35,000. Before it required us to get sealed bids for anything over 15,000. So it makes the process a little bit easier for staff and council to be able to get things done. So those quotes would still come to council for approval. Staff doesn't have the authority to make that decision. If it's over 35,000, then we'd have to go to sealed bid. So very similar to that, what is in the code, in the charter, that $5,000 threshold exists, where we have to go to bid for anything over, for the purchase of goods over $5,000. So if we wanted to go buy computers, it was more than $5,000, we would have to actually go to bid for those goods. So what this does is it mirrors what you did with the code and raises that threshold to 35,000 so that we would be able to get multiple quotes to bring to council instead of having to go through the bid process. So if you approve this ordinance, it will go to the supervisor of elections and will be a referendum on the ballot, and we will do, everything that we can to try and educate the public on what this means, because when they see it on the ballot, it may be a little confusing. So we'll get something out on the website. We'll work with Riverland to try and put something in the newspaper. We may even ask the candidates, who come in to qualify, to create a handout for them and say, if you get questions about this charter referendum, here is something explaining it. This will help you explain it to the public when you're out there talking to people. So.
And it's zero cost to the city. Beside doing
it actually saves the city money because we don't
saying.
have to go through the process of an RFP. We can just solicit quotes and bring them to council.
Yeah.
Okay, before council discusses, let's open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak to this item? Anyone on Zoom?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. It is now 8:10 p.m. and I close the public hearing held to discuss ordinance 2022-06 and reopen the July 11th city council meeting. So we're moving on to item number 10, the final reading of ordinance 2022-06.
Move ordinance ORD 2022 be read by title only.
Sodom?
Second?
Second?
Second.
Vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That's why I'm the vice.
Yeah, unanimous.
Ordinance number ORD 2022-06. An ordinance of the City of Dunnellon, Florida, submitting to the electors of Dunnellon a proposed amendment to Section 5 of the city charter, amending purchasing requirements for goods, providing the ballot title, summary, and text for the proposed amendment, providing directions to the city clerk, providing for the effective date of the charter amendment if approved by a majority of electors, providing for severability conflicts, and effective date for this ordinance.
Very good. Do we have anybody who would like to make public comment on agenda item number 10? No? Anyone on Zoom?
No.
Okay. We have a motion
Second.
for title only. You've already done that?
Be approved.
Yeah, for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have another proposed motion.
That was it.
That was it.
It's approved?
Yes, sir.
Move on to number 11.
All right, excellent. All right, we move on to agenda item number 11, for those of you that are hanging in there and following us. Council liaison reports and comments. Ms. Kenny, I'm sure you have a bunch to report to us. Why don't you start off to us? You've had a couple months to think about it. Cabbage. I don't know, I'm a little loopy. I'm loopy tonight for some reason. I don't know. I am loopy. Yeah, I don't know.
I got you. Comment, yes, just a suggestion that staff and council, I believe we should write a letter of thanks to our representative Joe Harding for representing us to get us that 3.4 million, I believe it is, for the pedestrian ridge trust.
2.5. 2.5.
2.5.
What was it again?
2.5.
I'm sorry, 2.5, that's enough. That's enough. I think a letter of thanks would be appropriate this time. He's someone that went to bat for us and got the job done.
I think that's an excellent idea.
I do too.
And
It was
we
on the
just-
news today too, I saw that.
We just,
Might I suggest that you also write a letter to the county?
I was just
Because the
about to
county
say.
is the one who
We do both.
spearheaded this.
I think we should do both.
And they applied, they actually were the applicant for the
Yeah.
appropriation. They put the package together. We just wrote a letter of support.
Can we do
I think we
both?
should do both.
Yes.
Both.
Both.
that's good. Handle it, Mandy. Or Georgina.
Good suggestion. Excellent. Anything else?
Enough.
Okay, Ms. Kenny, any comments?
No.
Ms. Williams?
I just want to publicly thank Mayor Bill White for attending our Juneteenth Day celebration that was held on June 25th at the First Bethel Missionary Baptist Church on William Street, where we had singing and we had dancing and we had speakers, and it was very nice, and I thought it was very nice of him to come and represent. And I want to thank Mr. Cubbage because he provided music. He was there for somebody else, but then when I started singing, he just, so we appreciate that very much.
You can do that.
He is
We
amazing.
appreciate that very much.
I don't know if you've ever heard Bob Cubbage play piano, but he could play in New York City. He's that good.
He played at my wedding, and he did one for my wedding song that I walked down the aisle to. It was a piece that he actually wrote himself. So I was blessed.
So I just started singing and he started playing.
Piano in here, people come and play.
Okay,
Excellent job.
Vice
So I
Mayor, do you have any
appreciate that.
comment?
Ow, no, sir, oh, sorry.
No? I just have one to let council know that I have 2 appointments tomorrow to speak. One with Commissioner Kennard in Citrus County, and another one to speak with Mr. Kitchen, who's the chair. Commissioner Kennard is actually the commissioner that his district is right behind us on the other side of the river. What I am going to go speak to them about is that unfinished building that's been sitting there for 25 or 30 years behind us, and just get an update about that building. It is in Mr. Kennard's district, and I also own property in that district. So I can represent myself as the mayor who's concerned about this building that everybody sees as they're entering and leaving Dunnellon. And I can also take a position that as a property owner within a quarter mile of the building, I'm kind of tired of looking at this unbuilt
The one that's right across the bridge there?
structure, yeah.
It is.
It's been there, I understand, at least 25 years, at least 25 years. And they'll probably tell me there's big plans for it or whatever, but this will be an opportunity for me to get to know them a little bit too. So that's what I'm gonna do. Yes,
Is that property in Citrus County? Or
yes.
Right across the bridge there. I heard somebody
Yeah, I
had purchased
actually
it.
made friends with his grandson, and he said they're having problems in Citrus County getting any kind of permits.
Right. There's just been those kind of excuses about that property for 20, 25 years.
It's a new
And
road.
there's always another excuse why, and it just sits there and sits there and sits there. Even Representative Masulu, when he came, and he's getting familiar with this area to speak with us, the first thing he said to me is, what's with that building that's sitting there on the bank of the river? And basically was saying, why isn't the city doing something about this, until he realized that side of the river is not.
What he's been representing, yeah.
Yeah, Dunnellon, right.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting. He was like, what's with this building? When I pull into Dunnellon, it says, welcome to Dunnellon. And so I'm just going to go talk to them and see what they say. So that's all I have to report. All right, anything from Manny, your department heads?
Anything more, sir, Troy?
I do. Good evening again, council. Give me just a couple of minutes of your time. I'll give you a few updates. First, I want to let you know that we were able to find the file where we had begun looking into the rope fence project around City Hall here. Looks like that project may run around $5,000 to $6,000. And as we get the updated quotes for this year compared to a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'll bring that back to council probably in August. Now, more importantly, we have a couple of paving projects that have begun and are pending. The driveway apron project for the Blue Run overflow parking, I gave a report last week. It said that we had been notified late in the afternoon. There was a asphalt shortage to complete that project. However, we have been able to locate and secure enough asphalt to finish that project. Bad part is, the contractor now has COVID, so he will probably be down for about a week. In addition to that, we have a little bit of contingency in that project. I think the project originally came in at $8,500. I asked council to give me a contingency up to $10,000 total for that project. And I've received a few concerns and requests to widen the radius as you first turn into the park, so from the north leading into the south. So I've got the contractor looking into a possible change order. It may or may not fall within that $1,500 contingency, but I don't expect it to be much more than that to increase that radius by a couple of feet, just to cut back on the potential wear and tear or early degradation of that turn, okay? And I will keep council informed. However, what I would like to ask of council, if it is off by a few dollars, and I mean maybe $1,000, if you don't mind pre-authorizing Mandy and myself to approve that change order, so when the contractor is able to return to work, we don't lose the opportunity of having that asphalt available to us.
Wasn't that under the $5,000 or $15,000
Well,
threshold?
for the total project, yes, it's not under 5,000. Total project now would be 10,000 to 11,000. Council's approved me for 10,000 for this project. What I'm asking for is a max approval of 11,000, just to give me that contingency to keep this moving forward without having to wait 30 days for approval.
That makes smart business. Instead of holding something up there, and if it's under his threshold.
And it is.
Do you anticipate that it would be more than $1,500 to put 2 extra feet on that?
I do not, but I do not control the market from day to day. I'm just asking for a little bit of an extra buffer to ensure that this project will be completed. I'm hoping to finish it within that 10,000 maximum.
So don't go up to them and say, we can go up to 11,000.
I never do that.
I was supposed to say, I think he's a little bit
Don't ever assume that I
smarter.
would do that. I don't do business that way.
So you're asking for
We will
another,
fight to keep it at 8,500.
We'll fight to keep it right at the 8,500 as well, but all I'm asking for is an additional $1,000 added to that project to give me a little extra buffer. If it goes over that, council, then we'll have to bring it back to council to finish the project. But I do not anticipate it.
So do you think my eyebrows will be raised if the final price is $10,999?
I'm sure it would.
He'll take off $1.
That's what I'm saying,
Trust me.
Yeah. So he's asking for another 1,000 on this project. We have a motion, we need a motion for that?
Can we just do a consensus for it?
It's not changing our budget any, so I don't know how that works, but
Do we, Andrew, do we need a motion to give him another $1,000?
Yes.
Yes?
I move you get $1,000 if you need it, but don't make
Okay,
the
we have
mayor
public,
raise his
we
eye.
need public comment, correct? Right. Public comment, we're talking, what we're talking about is the entrance for the auxiliary lot. You might need to widen it out a little bit to protect the edges of the apron. Troy's recommending another $1,000 in case we need it. Any public comment on that? Not necessarily that we'll spend it. Okay, no public comment. Okay, can we have a motion?
Motion to let Troy have $1,000 for the apron project if he needs it and not to make the mayor raise his eyebrows.
I'm putting that in the minutes, you know.
Go right ahead.
We have a second? We have a second. Okay, any more discussion?
Who was the second?
It's Kenny, I think.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Troy, have at it.
okay. Two more quick updates for you here. And council, we've had these road projects started for the last several months. We are now running into supply chains and asphalt shortages statewide. It was anticipated to start happening, and by the time we received notification, it happened rather quickly. So the Blue Cove project was slated to begin today. I received notification this afternoon that they do not feel comfortable beginning that project until they can guarantee they have the aggregate or the mixing components to make the asphalt. Because once they tear the roads up, they need to have the asphalt to put the roads back in. So I have agreed 100% with them in stating we do not want to tear any more roads up or start any more projects until we have the asphalt for that required project guaranteed and locked in. So it could be a couple of weeks, it may be longer than a couple of weeks, but I will keep council and the city clerk up to date day by day as I receive information on that project. By the way, they are also the company that has enough aggregate and materials available to help us finish our driveway apron project, so it's not sitting there for months. They did provide me with the same letter that they received from Junction City Mining, which is located in Georgia, where they have plenty of aggregate mined and ready for transport. It is sitting in rail cars or along the rail car right-of-ways, ready to be transported. However, CSX is having a shortage in drivers' inability to deliver it to Florida. So, anybody knows how to drive a train? CSX is hiring.
Is that like a tractor?
Now, the last and final update is the Ohio and Cedar Street project. Mind you, the contractor for the Ohio and Cedar Street and the contractor that was selected for Blue Cove, both, no, they're not the same, two separate companies, but both of them mix their own asphalt. They're not a third-party buyer or vendor. They do make their own asphalt. So, the last I heard on the Ohio and Cedar Street project, the contractor will be here this Friday, beginning the project. An email went out this afternoon, if not first thing tomorrow morning, with the first change order on that project, and also reminding the contractor we are expecting their arrival here this Friday. So we'll wait to see. The last I heard from that project contract was that they were having a shortage on manpower. So they weren't able to start the project a couple of weeks ago. They don't have enough employees. So to actually get that project back online, we've agreed to extend their hours of the day that they can work. Normally, they would shut down by 4 o'clock. We extended their work time till 7. Okay? So hopefully, we will see some activity on Ohio Street and Cedar Street by Friday, Monday at the latest. And that's about it for my updates.
Ms. Odom, who's
Dan,
next?
do you have anything?
Yes, Council, you had mentioned a couple meetings ago about possibly having another study done to increase our police impact fees. I reached out to the company that performed the original study, and I was quoted a price of $20,000 plus or minus, depending on presentations and how many meetings, to conduct another study. Just so council knows, we have collected, now all I have is this year's amount, I don't have last year's, but all we've collected in impact fees this year is $3,780. So if council feels that another study may garner additional revenue, we can go ahead and contract for it, otherwise we just let it ride and continue to collect at the level that we've already set.
So come up with $20,000 for a study for something that has created $3,000 worth of revenue.
Correct.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a good business.
And do a 7% millage too. Yeah.
That would fund the study.
I think not.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
That's a no-brainer.
Ms. Odom?
No brainer.
Georgina, do you have anything?
I pretty much gave you an update on the last meeting about the cases and the residential permitting, or commercial permitting and code enforcement. All I needed to add was that I have 2 new businesses. One is Art in Motion Conservatory of Dance Studio. They're located at 249 East Penn. And LaRousse Ice Cream LLC, which are located at 11223 North Williams. So now you can go get ice cream and then
Go dance it off?
and then go dance it off.
Is that the one building that I've been asking about? Where's the
That's-
dance studio?
It's 20049 East Penn.
It's not the pink building.
No, well, Penn is this road. Is it by Regions Bank?
I'm not sure exactly.
Need to read
I can tell you.
Okay, what else?
That's pretty much it.
Is that it? Okay, Ms.
I had to
Odom?
mention ice cream,
Who's
I had a
next?
whole pound.
Chief, you got anything?
Chief?
Tired.
Okay, this is an example why we need to put the department heads sooner, because they have some good stuff to tell us, and I mean, it's torturous. I mean, at the end of 3 hours, it's like,
Do you have to listen to them?
yeah, so,
Okay. Well, we got a consensus, and that's what we would do with the workshop agenda, so now if we have a consensus, that's what we're gonna do with the council meeting agenda, we'll put it early.
really, it
On
needs
both.
to be. I mean, really, it's tough when our department heads have put so much time into their report and they have good stuff to tell us, and we're just sitting there saying, I mean, when we go down the line, I'm begging that you say, no, I don't have anything to say today.
More.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be like this.
Okay, let's hope Andrew doesn't have anything, right?
Caffeine is.
I do not have anything tonight.
Okay.
It's great.
Answer. Move on to agenda item number 14.
Okay.
Goodbye.
We have a motion to adjourn.
See y'all. Have a good night.
Second. Unanimous. Thank you very much.